And good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered, 7 to 9 a.m., Monday through Friday Eastern. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on our Women and Wellness Wednesday. We will have a few special guests. We've got Miss Karen Kennedy, who will be joining us, and I'm so excited at the top of the 8 o'clock hour. And then we will also have Gabrielle Clark and Dr. Nikki will be joining us as well. So thank you again for joining us this morning on Unfiltered Vision News. And let's get into it. So I don't know if a lot of people heard about this situation. It happened Monday, actually, on Memorial Day. And it was a car that drove into a crowd. Now, this is in Liverpool. So it didn't happen here in America. But the reason why I wanted to bring it up and play it for you guys is because, you know, we are going into the summer months and we're doing a lot more parades. People are going to be outside doing celebrations. And with that, we also need to just stay alert, right, to what's happening around us. And it's unfortunate that we just can't relax. I mean, you would think with all the technology we have, and we should be doing so much better just as a society, period, worldwide, right? We should be in a better place. And things are more violent than they were, in my opinion, right? I think the 60s were definitely super tragic and violent. And then we just went through a time in the 70s and the 80s where people were actually, kind of cool, kind of having fun. But now it just seems like in these, the 2020s, it's really devastating, the things that happen when you're just trying to be outside and enjoy your family. So let me go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see what happened in Liverpool. Yeah, like I said, I just wanted to play that for you guys because, again, we need to just stay on alert, right? As much as we want to enjoy being outside at the different events, we're at the end of May, we're going into June, and there's tons of events going on in the month of June. Children are getting out of school, people have graduated, Juneteenth is coming up. We've got other parades coming up, and we just want to make sure that people are safe, right? And maybe tomorrow we'll get into some of those parades that I'm not looking forward to, and some suggestions for law enforcement for this year. In my opinion, there's a new sheriff in town. So I'm really hoping that the month of June can just be a month of celebration and not tragedy. I should say that. So let's get into it. So the Trump administration, freezes all student visa interviews, weighs new vetting procedures. So they are not kidding. I know I went over this a little bit last week, and my question was, okay, because it just seemed like Harvard was being targeted. And my whole thing was, okay, if you're going to target Harvard, target all of them, right? Are they all doing this? You know, and if they are, okay, that's fine. But it just seems like Harvard's being targeted specifically. So I'm not sure if maybe there may be something going on there that we're not privy to, and that could be a possibility. So the summary of this is: an order signed by State Secretary Marco Rubio tells U.S. embassies and consular sections to pause all student visa interviews as the Trump administration considers expanding the vetting process. Now, in that, it did not specify any specific school. So this is just all schools. It has to be, right? It's all student visas, interviews. So anybody from, a foreign country wanting to come over here and go to school, that's shut down. It's like, okay. So the details, the cable states that embassies and consular sections should pause all appointments in preparation for an expansion of required social media screening and vetting. Though the order doesn't specify what the screening will look for, it aims to key out terrorists and battle anti-Semitism. So, you know how people love to just, live their lives on social media, and that's what people do. Some people do. I don't. I think this is as much as my life as I want to live on social media, between doing this and being the founder of the Redemption Party. Like, that's about it. That's all I'm doing. But other people tend to live their feelings on social media, and they tend to express their disdain maybe for other groups on social media. So it is definitely something that is used, and people even use this as background checks for employment. And I don't think a lot of young people realize that. Maybe they do now more so, but you do have, I've even filled out job applications where it will ask for your social media handles, like your X account, your LinkedIn account, if you have one, YouTube, Facebook. It wants to know where you're plugged into as far as your social media, because they want to go through it, because as a company, they want to make sure that if they're associating themselves with you, that they're not associating themselves with someone that they might see might not be a good fit for their company. So there's always that to take into account. There used to be a time where you could have a personal life outside of your company, and then it became this, well, you're a representative of the company, even if you're, at home, and, when you're out at school, and it's just like, ew. I mean, I don't like that part about the way corporations have done that. I understand that they want people that are upstanding. I get it, that you want people that are just normal, right? Working for your company. But I think there's a fine line between that and constantly feeling like you have to be on, if that makes sense to anyone out there. Just feeling like you're never separated from the company, right? You don't feel separated and just like, oh, I can breathe. It's the weekend. I have time to just focus on my family and focus here, where you always have that in the back of your mind. Am I being a good representative of the company? That's all I'm saying. It's a thing. So the Homeland Security Department revoked Harvard's ability to accept international students last week, though the order has since been paused in courts. The administration previously imposed social media screening requirements aimed at students who participated in protests against Israel's actions in Gaza. According to Politico, that leans left bias. Mahmoud, uh, Mahmoud Khalil, Khalil was one of the first students to have his green card status revoked because of his involvement in protest. And there's been a lot of back and forth about his protesting. And some people have said, he should be removed because of the language that was used during his protest. And other people were like, well, if we're going to have freedom of speech, why isn't that afforded to students here on US soil? And it is a fine line, right? Of what was said. Was he using threatening language, number one? Or if he was just saying, I don't like this person, or I don't like that person, okay, you say who you don't like all day long. But what language was used? I don't have the transcript of his specific language, but if he had his green card status revoked, it was for a reason. And people are concerned. They're like, okay, well, are you going to come down on the freedom of speech for everybody? Well, we've got to remember, this person is not a citizen of our country. This is just a student. You're visiting here. You're a visitor. You are not a citizen of this country. So yeah, you're free. You know what I'm saying? To a certain extent. And that those are just facts. But see, what people are saying is that a slippery slope to then use that against citizens as well. So the jury's out on that one still. So how the media covered. The New York Post, that leans right, included Rubio's statement, those who support designated terrorist organizations, including Hamas, threaten our national security. And Newsweek, that center, quoted Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem saying, it is a privilege, not a right, for universities to enroll foreign students. It also quoted a senior fellow at the American Immigration Council who said, if the United States stops taking foreign students, the economic impact would be catastrophic. Politico noted that vagueness of the order, writing that it is unclear, for example, whether posting photos of a Palestinian flag on an X account could force a student to undergo additional scrutiny. It could. I'm just saying, like I just said before, they use your social media to just do background checks when you're applying for a job. So, and here's the thing. I know a lot of people are like, why are they coming down on these students? Well, we do have spies everywhere. What's the easiest way to put a spy in a country? Make them a student. Make them learn everything that's going on here. Because who would ever suspect a student of espionage? No one. No one would ever expect a student to come here and they want to learn and get a degree, that they're actually spying on the American public, that they're actually interjecting beliefs into the American public, trying to muddy the waters over here. Like nobody would expect a student of doing that. Yeah, that's why this is happening. If anybody out there is wondering, because we now have to look at that as a way that they're just shuffling people around and through to do things that could undermine our national security. I'm just saying, like, why is everybody here involved? Rubio, Homeland Security? Yeah, because they're thinking about that part. And before we go on to the next story, I really wanted to look at Doge, the latest on federal cuts and firing. So on all sides, they have like certain parts of their website where you can actually just look for information. They also have one that's almost like a Trump administration, almost like a grading card on what he's doing, right? Which I actually like. And they keep things updated weekly or daily. So as things are changing, you can kind of look at and click the button and say, okay, let's track stuff. So as of the 27th, the cuts have eliminated roughly 61,296 federal jobs, according to layoffs.fyi. This was revised down significantly in mid-April. So an executive order establishing Doge, which Trump signed on his first day back in office, reformed a different government agency in the process. The order reads, the United States Digital Service is hereby publicly renamed as United States Doge Service. We've read this before. So the latest developments, okay, the Trump admin said it intends to cancel $100 million in remaining federal contracts with Harvard. So some of these schools, they do get federal contracts as well outside of the students that may use like a Pell Grant or just a federal student loan, right? So that's outside of this funding. These are federal contracts that might go to studies, like biological studies or different studies. They do have grants out there for colleges that they can apply for. So this is another way that schools do get their funding. And so they might cancel $100 million in remaining federal contracts. So they've already gotten some money, right? But so there's 100 million remaining. So Trump has also threatened Harvard with redistributing 3 billion of its federal grants to trade schools. Okay. Whew. Harvard, y'all on a hot seat. A federal judge blocked Trump's order that laid off thousands at the Department of Education. The European Union sustained Radio Free Europe with emergency funding. The Supreme Court allowed Trump to fire a pair of independent regulators, and the Trump admin cut grants to universities for studying misinformation. Now that's interesting. So they cut it. Wow. Okay. But then if you go down, you can see the different things here. The jobs that were cut, police reform, grants that were cut, Medicaid cuts. And this is the reason why I really enjoy looking through the news and telling you guys the news through all sides, because it's literally giving you the news from all sides. I showed you guys the influencer bias chart last week. It's really great. If you get a chance, definitely check out all sides and check that out. But one of the next stories I wanted to get to was the Pentagon was accused of illegally wiretapping foreign aides. So these are not the aides from the United States, obviously, but foreign aides. And they're accused of illegally wiretapping them. So this is going to get interesting. So, a Pentagon investigation led by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth has come under scrutiny following allegations Tuesday of an illegal wiretap on a former aide. Okay, so this is someone who is obviously no longer working with the administration. So, to pinpoint the I'm sorry, I'm going to sneeze. I always say that and then I don't. And then I don't mute my microphone. Let me just wait this out for a second. Okay, much better. Okay, so to pinpoint the source of internal leaks, an illegal wiretap was reportedly used on former aide Dan Caldwell. This was part of an investigation ordered by Hegseth, which led to the dismissal of three aides, including Caldwell. The allegation of an illegal wiretap has caused the White House to lose confidence in the investigation, according to a report by The Guardian that's left bias. So, for context, the leak in question involved a reportedly top secret document outlining potential strategies for the U.S. military to reclaim the Panama Canal. This document was allegedly leaked to a reporter by Caldwell. The involvement of Hegseth's personal lawyer, Tim Palatori, in the investigation has raised further concerns. The Guardian's report alleged Palatori as the one who disclosed the information about the warrantless wiretap, although Palatori denied making any such claim. So this is a lot of he said, she said, or he said. We'll just say that. So how the media covered it, The Guardian highlighted the disbelief and alarm within the White House, stating that advisors were stunned by the allegations of illegal wiretapping. The article also painted a picture of a chaotic situation within Hegseth's office, marked by confusion and mistrust. So Newsmax on the right focused more on legality of the wiretap, stating that if true, it would be more scandalous than the leaks themselves. Both outlets emphasize the res okay, the resultant. That's weird. I'm sorry, I'm having trouble with that word. Both outlets emphasize the resultant ta- resultant lack of confidence in the investigation. I'm just trying to figure out how that word fits in there. But anyway, so it lacked confidence in the investigation, both outlets. Okay, so let's just say that. And that makes sense. But it's interesting how they both covered it so broadly and so I won't say disproportionately, but one person's like they definitely did this, and then the other was like they definitely didn't. And I kind of remember what was going on with this story. It was like they were using an app to communicate, and everybody's like, "What are you doing?" Even using an app to communicate some of this stuff, could that just be a little dangerous? But with the wiretapping, that's outside of even using the app. That's spying on somebody, you know, and violating, the Fourth Amendment. Well, does this apply since this person is considered to be a foreign aide? And I'm like, I thought this aide was an American citizen. I didn't think Caldwell was not an American citizen. So, I mean, it's one of those things you kind of have to know the people involved before you're reading the headline to really understand the depth of what we're doing, because it says foreign aides, and it's like, okay, are you saying that they were over like different departments that dealt with other foreign entities? Is that what you mean? Because when I see foreign aides, I'm assuming that the person is not from the United States and they're assisting the United States, right? Because we do have people that we work with from different countries that we're allied and partnered with. That's what we do. That's true. But it's just the way this headline reads, it could be misleading. And that's in my opinion. Okay, we're going to go over this and then we're going to take a quick break. But I wanted to get to this one really quickly. The government to halt COVID vaccine recommendations for pregnant women and healthy kids. And that's really big because I remember when at the height of the vaccine being disseminated that they were really pushing for pregnant women to be vaccinated, which I found odd because when I was pregnant, and I have 3 children, I'm so grateful for all 3 of them, I couldn't take anything as much as aspirin. It was one of those things. If you got sick when you were pregnant, God bless you. because where's the chicken soup? Sleep, drink plenty of fluids. Like that is all you could do, because they said we don't want to give you any medication that could interfere, right, with you carrying your child. You could miscarry, or you could affect the baby. So it was always a rule of thumb: do not take any type of medication. Definitely don't get vaccinated while you're pregnant, right? Because that could alter a lot of different things. But then all of a sudden, when this vaccine was released, it was like, oh, yeah, let's just inject everybody. I was like, whoa, 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 slow down. Hold on. Like, right. It's like, hold your horses before we, start doing these types of things. So I just, like I said, I thought it very fascinating that they went about it that way. So, Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy announced Tuesday that the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, will no longer recommend the COVID-19 vaccine for healthy children and pregnant women. Very grateful for this. So, the CDC's website at the time of this publishing still includes its unrevised statement that everyone ages 6 months and older is recommended to get the updated COVID-19 vaccine, including if you are pregnant, breastfeeding a baby, trying to get pregnant now, or might become pregnant in the future. COVID-19 vaccination during pregnancy is safe and effective. Like I said before, we were told when I was pregnant, like, don't. And told if you were preparing to, have a baby, certain things. I mean, there are certain things now. If you've had a baby and you're breastfeeding, there's certain foods that they recommend you not even eat. And I'm like, you're recommending for people to be injected? It's very crazy. So the change aligns with with multiple countries that recommended the vaccine for older individuals and those with certain existing health conditions. Kennedy's announcement comes a week after the Food and Drug Administration announced some research pending limitations to the annual booster shot. So I don't know if I didn't read that here on air. I don't think. But what they were talking about is making sure, I think I did. I might have. I cover a lot of news, y'all. But basically, what they did is they raised the standards to the updated COVID shot. They wanted to say, okay, if you're going to update this, we need, more proof of the efficacy. We need to know more studies, what how did the studies pan out, just everything. So they're raising the standards of requirements on these different manufacturers, as opposed to just giving them a blank check and saying, okay, you can just disseminate your COVID-19 vaccines everywhere and people have to take them. Because I mean, it's $1 billion business. I mean, it's a lot of business in getting these vaccines done. They get the patents, and then they get the government contracts, and then the government says, "Hey, everybody, you should take these." So they're making money on both ends, and it's very crazy how it works. But I'm glad to see that we're halting on this specific vaccine here, and I'm looking forward to many more that they're going to halt and raise the standards on. So the New York Post, that leans right bias, highlighted the alignment of the U.S. with other countries that have tightened vaccine requirements. Forbes, that center focused on potential risks the new guidelines present, highlighting a critic who believes the move puts children and pregnant women in harm's way. The Associated Press, which leans left, emphasized Kennedy's criticism of some vaccines and pointed out that no one from the CDC was present in the video announcing the change. Interesting. Huh. That no one from the CDC was present in the video announcing. Well, they don't have to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, the CDC is beholden to the government. Nobody's beholden to the CDC. I need people to understand it. Like the CDC can be investigated, shut down, all kinds of stuff, you know, all kinds of things. They are there as a measure to ensure that, these patented vaccines actually work. They're actually there to monitor some of these other companies, right, that come up with these vaccines. And isn't it super convenient that a lot of the former CEOs worked in some way either with the CDC or even the FDA? And they're now in the corporate sector working for companies like Moderna and, Pfizer, but they were former government employees. So it that always fascinates me. Doesn't seem like a conflict of interest, right? Wink, wink. So that one I wanted to go over because I'm really grateful that the that Kennedy is stepping in with these vaccines because people have been injured. They have. There's a lot of people, some I've met on X, they've been injured. I'm grateful that people in my life, their reactions, I should say, that were negative to the injections they received, they weren't deadly, thank goodness. But I do have some relatives, unfortunately, that had cancer that was in remission, and their cancer is no longer in remission. And I don't know how much longer they're going to be with us. But I do know that they all, got injected. So those are things that are happening in our world. And right now, I'm going to take a quick break and I will see you guys on the other side.
At All Sides, we believe unbiased. At All Sides, we give bias ratings for hundreds of media outlets. By freeing people from filter bubbles and providing different perspectives, we can all be better equipped to understand the world and each other. So how do we do it?
And we are back here at Unfiltered Vision News. Thank you so much for joining me this morning on our Women in Wellness Wednesday. We are bringing you the news here unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. And so I wanted to take a look at this particular article talking about how the Senate overwhelmingly supports Russia sanctions bill. Good or bad idea, right? I know, we read a little bit about what happened with the drone situation with Ukraine, and it's like, are they trying to threaten Putin's life? I mean, it's sad, and President Trump has said, he was kind of left with this mess, and he was, and this mess kind of started, but this mess has been going on really since 2011. It's been going on for quite a while now, even before Trump got into office, but now it's spiraled out of control. And I've always said, how much involvement will the US have in this? Because what was a proxy war has now, become, unfortunately, one of those endless situations. And they really need to come to some sort of agreement for a ceasefire because people are losing their lives unnecessarily, right? Because at this point, does anybody know why they're even still warring? And a lot of people will say, well, yeah, it's the land there, and that land is the breadbasket of the world. And we need to make sure that, Putin is not over all of it. And Ukraine still has their sovereignty. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what we're talking about. But my question is, why can't we get there? Vladimir Putin has overly expressed how he doesn't want Zelensky to be part of NATO, but it's like, okay, you really can't control how somebody else wants to run their country. I know you may not like NATO, and I get it because you don't want them encroaching on your land, but you can't tell somebody else how to run their house, right? You run your house, let them run theirs. You may not like it, right? But there needs to be that respect there. So I'm really hoping that they do come to a ceasefire and to amicable relationship where they can work together. You don't have to be besties, definitely don't have to be friends, but you have to work this out for the sake of your people. So, a bill from Senators Lindsey Graham of South Carolina and Richard Blumenthal of Connecticut that would impose a 500% tariff on countries that buy Russian energy is receiving widespread bipartisan support. So, it's almost like, okay, you're going to give me a 500% tariff. I will definitely be looking to, do business somewhere else. Okay, so for context, the bill has 82 co sponsors so far and come days after President Trump said Russian President Vladimir Putin had gone absolutely crazy and accused Russia of killing civilians in recent strikes on Ukraine. So the bill has received significant support from both Senate Republicans and Democrats, as well as the Wall Street Journal editorial board that leans left bias. The journal's board voiced intense support for the bill on May 20th and again on May 26th. On May 27th, it published an opinion from Graham, who wrote, "Depending on how Russia responds, we will know which course to take. If Mr. Putin continues to play games, the Senate will act. I'm hoping for the best, but when it comes to the thug in Moscow, we should all prepare for more of the same." Now, I don't know how y'all feel about Lindsey Graham, but this particular individual, I need him replaced in the Senate. So if anybody out there is listening from South Carolina, we need somebody else in his seat. We need somebody else to run. This individual has been in the Senate long enough. Long enough. You know, I understand the reason for the tariffs, but the name calling, that has no place in politics. And you trying to grandstand, Mr. Graham, needs to stop. Because I don't think you've ever seen a war that you don't like or a conflict that you wouldn't get involved in. And for the very fact that a lot of these Democrats are involved in it too, I was like, who's making money off of this? That's all I want to know. Who's benefiting? Because you guys don't go all in on anything unless you're going to benefit from it. First and foremost, let's just read through the lines just a bit. Just a bit. I'm pretty sure if I did a little bit more digging, I'd be like, yeah, this is why they're doing that. Anybody got investments with the other energy companies that are going to be getting some more of this business since you're going to be putting the tariffs on Russian energy, right? I'm sure that you've updated your stock portfolio based on that. So you're going to be making money on the back end. And these other companies know that they're going to be making money on the back end. That's why when I see things like this that get bipartisan support, I'm like, y'all are just into making some more money. This is not about the safety of anybody. This is about your pockets. Let's be real. Let's keep it real frank. You don't care about the people. You care about yourself. So Senator Rand Paul penned an opinion for the Reasonable Statecraft, which is center, in which he said Graham's bill would backfire and cause an economic calamity on a scale never before seen in our country. Paul argued, while tariffs make wars more likely, embargoes make wars difficult to avoid, and that such a steep tariff on so many countries essentially amounts to an embargo. Now, the European perspective is an analysis from Euronews, which is center, said the bill could wreck Russia, but also ravage several EU countries. Euronews noted that France, Spain, Belgium, the Netherlands, Portugal, Italy, Greece, Hungary, Slovakia, Bulgaria, Czechs, wow, Czechia, and Finland all purchase or transport Russian energy. The publication noted, however, that there is a glimmer of hope for Brussels. The draft law would allow Trump to grant a 180-day exemption from the 500% tariff to a country to protect national security interests. Yeah, like I'm saying, it's about money, y'all. This all comes back to the dollar. Who's going to make it and who's going to benefit from it? And like I said, I think those 82 co-sponsors of the bill, those are the ones that want to benefit from them and their donors. That's what this is about. It's not about helping people. It really isn't. When they're using tariffs and embargoes in the right way and trying to hamstring people into deciding the way they want to go. And again, you see how do you see this dude right here? He needs to go. He's been in the Senate long enough. I think we're good. South Carolina, please stop sending this person back to the hill. You need to send somebody different who wants to represent the people and not their own political agenda. It needs to stop. Lindsey Graham has been in office long enough and he does not care. He's about one side, Lindsay's. Okay? That's the only side he has. It doesn't even matter, in my opinion, about his donors anymore. It's about his side. And he will flip flop like a fish out of water to get whatever he needs to get. But it is definitely always about his side. He does not have the American people's best interests at heart, nor his state's. Because if he did, his state would be doing better. And they're not. By the way, you've been in Congress all this time and your state's still struggling the way it is? Really, sir? No, it's time for you to go. They need somebody different. They definitely need somebody different. But I found this fascinating. Texas governor signs online safety law and a blow to Apple and Google. So I wanted to share this with you because I know that there are some states, I think Florida did this as well, where they implemented some different laws around the internet and how things could be done. I guess to make sure that people weren't disparaged. I know Laura Loomer, she lives there, and some things had happened to her online. So maybe that's where some of this bill, they've kind of taken a page out of the book from Florida. So Texas Governor Greg Abbott has signed an online child safety bill that requires Apple and Google to ensure that their app stores verify the age of the user in the nation's second most populous state. Under the new law, minors will need parental approval before they can download apps or make in-app purchases. The bill was opposed by Google and Apple. We believe there are better proposals that help keep kids safe without requiring millions of people to turn over their personal information, an Apple spokesperson said in a statement. Now that's interesting because, last time I checked, a lot of kids aren't working at 10 years old. I'm just saying. And they have phones, right? But their parents are paying for whatever, if they want an app or whatever. And yeah, they should get parental approval before downloading apps or making in-app purchases because it's the parents' responsibility. So, my kids are kind of grown and gone, but let's just say, for example, if my child wanted to download an app, it should alert my phone as the parent, right? Because it should connect to my account. It should alert me, hey, your child is trying to download this app. Do you approve or not? This is what the cost is going to be. I'm not opposed to that as a parent, but For them to say there's better proposals that keep kids safe without requiring millions of people to turn over their personal information. It's not turning over your personal information. You can set your apps to, even alert you and to stop you from just purchasing anything, right? I mean, they're little game apps. I'm one of those people. I like to play Candy Crush, you know what I'm saying? And every once in a while I get stuck. And so I'll buy, like the little extra bars or whatever so I can advance in the game because I do enjoy playing the game. But it alerts me before I make the purchase. I'll get a pop-up that says, okay, you're about to do this. Do you want to do this? And then I have the option to click yes or no. That's it. That's it. I don't think that this is unreasonable. And it's not asking for any extra information. If they were doing it the way I was just saying it, that's like low on the totem pole because you're already doing that, right? And a child more than likely is going to be on their parents' account anyway. So they should be monitoring what their children are doing on their phones. It should just be connected. To me, it makes more sense. It says Google did not immediately respond to a request for comment from the BBC. So Texas follows Utah, another conservative state which adopted a similar law earlier this year. At the federal level, U.S. lawmakers have spearheaded the Kids Online Safety Act, known as COSA, which would require social media companies to make design choices that present and mitigate harms to young users. So COSA was passed by the U.S. Senate last year, but stalled in the House of Representatives, the lower chamber of the U.S. Congress. The proposed bipartisan legislation, which Apple supports, was reintroduced in Congress earlier this month. In the absence of a federal law, the states have chosen to come up with their own legislation. Laws that call for age verification has long pitted Apple Store providers like Apple and Google against social media companies. Meta, which owns the social media network Facebook and photo sharing app Instagram, has lobbied for Apple and Google to be responsible for verifying the age of users, which they should. If a real 13-year-old is having an account, a 40-year-old who says that they're 13 years old should not be on that same app. That's all I'm saying. There's a lot of creepy people on the internet taking advantage of these children. And they're adults on the other sides of these phones, and these kids think they're talking to other kids and they're not. So these apps, these applications, these, tech giants, they're not protecting people. So when I see them giving some pushback, I'm like, why are you giving so much pushback? When it's the, you should be at the forefront wanting to protect children. What's wrong with you? I'm just saying, it's how people move. So according to the Wall Street Journal, Apple chief executive Tim Cook called Governor Abbott earlier this month in a bid to stop the passage of the state's bill. Why are you trying to stop something that could actually help? That, like I said, the way people move gives me pause. So an Apple spokesperson said the tech giant shares the goal of strengthening kids' online safety, but added it was deeply concerned by the threat it believes the law poses to privacy of all users. Yeah, the privacies of the creepy 40-year-olds pretending to be 13-year-olds. That's what it would do. Why are you trying to protect that? You don't care about our privacy. Y'all lose our stuff all the time. Please, really, Apple? You're in China. You have access to all of our information. And guess what? To get the discount that you get in China, you know what you have to do? You have to let the Chinese government see everything. We're not dumb. We're not dumb anymore. Okay? That's what we're doing. You are protecting pedophiles at this point. And that's my opinion. And I will say allegedly. Okay? Because if you are not trying to actually implement this on your own, within your own app, and the government has to step in and say, hey, children are being hurt, they're being harmed, we need you to do this, and now we have to make you do it, by passing laws and coming down on you. What's wrong with you? Really? Privacy of all users? Really? You should be exposing these pedophiles that are on these apps with these children. And it should force them to put in their right dates of birth. And if they try to make a fake account, which many of them do, that's why they're on these apps, they shouldn't be able to do it. Because according to their what is that IME number, whatever that's on their telephone, when they that it's registered to them and then pings to their IP address where they're at, that information should be pulled, that it's verifying the person is who they are. Come on now. I'm not that smart. I just know some things about the internet. This is easy. And saying that, you're now concerned about privacy, really, that's laughable. Apple. Extremely laughable. Y'all need to stop that. Whatever. So it requires app marketplaces to collect and keep sensitive personal identifying information for every Texan who wants to download an app, even if it's an app that simply provides weather updates or sports scores. The company, you do that anyway. You have our information anyway. You have to actually create an Apple ID when you're using Apple. I don't have to do that with an Android. I don't. It makes it more fluid when I add my Google account to it, right? But I don't even have to do that either. But I do have to put in some information to verify that it's me. That is my personal information. So what are you talking about? Really? Apple is wild. Okay, so in February, Apple announced a slew of new child safety measures, including a requirement that users select an age range on a new device. For users under 13, a parent or guardian must provide consent for a child to use the App Store and other features that app require the use of its Face ID. I like this. The law is set to take effect on January 1. And the reason why I like it is, like I said before, it will deter these pedophiles being on these apps that are truly meant for children. There are specific apps that they have made for kids, and their parent or guardian should be signing off on it. The internet is a unfortunate place, and it should be better, right? We should have more care and concern, and definitely make sure that we're taking care of people in a better way. But for some reason, for some awkward reason, we don't want to take care of our children online until something devastating happens. And then everybody's in an uproar trying to, chase after the situation as opposed to prevention. And I do appreciate what Texas is doing. They're trying to prevent this stuff. So Texas has persuaded Silicon Valley through legislation before. In 2021, the state made it illegal for social media platforms to ban users based on their political viewpoints, after Republican politicians accused Facebook and the company then known as Twitter for censoring their opinions. And that's, and shortly after that, Elon bought it, and now it's X with Twitter specifically. But then, when Elon bought it, he also found out that the FBI was bold. They're like, oh yeah, we work with all kinds of social media companies to get the outcomes that we want. I was like, whoa, okay. FBI, Cash, Bongino, I hope y'all are looking into that to see what happened with that nonsense. That's y'all's agency. Please make sure that you're not just following people and, you know, doing things that are disparaging, right? But since that time, X, it's decent, but I have heard some things that, it could be better. Look, we can always be better, right? But there's still some stuff on there going on that probably shouldn't. And I think that's with all social media, right? You're gonna find things in there that could be better that maybe shouldn't be there for the betterment of everyone involved. Absolutely. So, with that, we're going to take a quick break and we will see you guys on the other side. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Eastern. And so we are going to have some special guests here in the 8 o'clock hour, just waiting for one of my guests to join. Join us this morning. So I wanted to point out here that the GOP fears Trump's big, beautiful bill is a debt bomb. And I know initially there were some things before the big, beautiful bill that Rand Paul was definitely like, I think we could do better. I do appreciate him always standing in the gap to make sure that, we're not spending everything. Right. So the fiscal impact of President Trump's big, beautiful bill, which one prominent budget hawk called a debt bomb, is becoming a significant political concern among Republican lawmakers who have made little progress toward offsetting the $3 trillion projected cost of the legislation. Some GOP senators fear that the bill's failure to rein in federal spending in a substantial way over the next decade is fueling jitters in the bond market, where soft demand for U.S. debt has caused yields to climb in recent weeks. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And this is from the Hill. And like I said, they are in the center. And I do appreciate the coverage that they bring. And the Republicans, they worry that if Republicans pass Trump's bill on party line votes in both chambers, they will get blamed for heaping trillions of dollars onto the debt and the economic consequences that may follow in the future. Now, I just want to point out, even when VP Harris was running, people pointed out her budgetary goals, right? And that they would spiral us into debt. So it does happen on both sides. So I don't want to just one side this. I just want to point that out there. Her goal or her budget would have caused debt also. And it was roughly about the same as like $2 to $3 trillion in debt. I think with what Doge was doing could continue to save us money, right? Just reining in the spending that shouldn't be spent. Like, should we be, spending, billions of dollars on Sesame Street in foreign countries? Should we be, spending billions of dollars on, telling people what to do or what not to do politically, or how to be, with certain ideologies, right? Our monies should not be spent on that. Our monies could be better spent. So I think if they still continue to focus on that within the federal government, just how they spend, especially with government contracts, we could save a lot more money. We really could. but they do have to continue to stay on that line of, is this necessary and should we be spending this much? So they're not being wasteful, right? And I guess Rick Scott said, I think we're having trouble selling our long bonds already. And he cited the rising interest rates. And I know Trump has been going back and forth with the Federal Reserve, asking them to lower interest rates, right? So that people who want to buy houses or do different things can get into the market at a lower interest rate. But the Federal Reserve is refusing to do that. Shocker. So Scott is one of the least four Senate Republican conservatives who are sounding the alarm over the long-term fiscal implications of the 1,116-page budget reconciliation bill that passed the House. They support many of the bill's components, but argue it falls well short of what is needed to reduce annual federal deficits that are projected to grow from 2.2 trillion a year in 2025 to more than 2.5 trillion in 2035. And they're not wrong. That's tracking. That is tracking. But you've got to see, okay, where is the money going? I guess that's the question. So if you don't want this projected budget to grow, find it. I'm just saying, like you guys we have the technology. I'm just saying, we're in 2025. We have the technology. We have the ability to do this. You do not have to physically sit with a document anymore. You literally can put a whole document into Chat GPT and say, find me ways to save money and outline the ways that we can save money within this budget. I'm just saying. If your staff can't do that for you, what are y'all doing there? Because you can do that now. And Chat GPT will actually come back and give you places where you can save money, where it sees you're spending money that could be cut. It can do that for you. Do that. Use that. Stop giving us these excuses like you guys can't do your job anymore. You have no excuses anymore. Nope. Chat GPT has taken away that whole excuse of you sitting there going, wow, there's such a big, no. You can put that whole document in there and say, give me a summary. Give me a breakdown, no more than 2 pages. You literally can do that. And if you can't do that, then you should fire your staff. Okay, I'm just saying. They should be more equipped to do the job. You guys no longer get to sit behind your desk and stomp your feet and, bang on your desk and act like you don't know what's going on. No more excuses. Fix this. Since you don't want to spend the money, run it through ChatGPT and find out where you can save the money and fix it. Done. Look, I saved you weeks and hours of work because we're not taking those excuses anymore. Okay. All right. So it said, I want to get a deal done. I support the president's agenda. I support the border. I support the military. I support extending the Trump tax cuts. But we have to live in reality. But we got to live in reality here. Okay. I don't know why that was twice, but we got a fiscal crisis. Yes, we do. Again, I said, use ChatGPT, Scott. You can get this done, sir, in a few minutes, really. You saw the Japanese bond market is in trouble. You saw the American bond market is in trouble. Inflation is not coming down. Interest is not coming down. That means we've got to balance the budget, he added. Yeah, you're right. It's not coming down because the Federal Reserve refuses to lower the interest rate. It just boggles my mind that we are hamstrung by an entity that we created, by the way, okay, that is not beneficial to the United States. It's not. It's been a detriment, and it doesn't care because it doesn't have any skin in the game in that way. It destroy our country and still be standing. That's scary. I'm still on the Federal Reserve needs to be abolished. Y'all need to work on that. Congress. Okay. The 30-year U.S. Treasury yield rose to 5.15% Thursday, its highest level since 2023 after the House passed the massive package. So, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, who was one of only two Republicans to vote no, called the bill a debt bomb. He's not wrong. He warned it dramatically increases deficits in the near term while promising fiscal reforms 5 years from now, right? We have heard that before, he asked. Christopher Waller, a member of the Federal Reserve Board of Governors, said Thursday that marks that markets are looking for a little more fiscal discipline and are concerned. He called yearly deficits of more than 2 trillion not sustainable. Fears that the deficit would rise dramatically were aired last fall. Yep, that's true. During the presidential race, as both candidates made a series of promises. Now those fears are being realized. Senator Rand Paul is warning colleagues that Trump and Republican lawmakers will wholly own future federal deficits if they enact the House passed legislation without making big changes to offset the cost of the president's priorities and other expensive items added by House GOP negotiators, such as a proposal to raise the cap on state and local tax SALT deductions from 10,000 to 40,000 annually. Ooh, my goodness. Okay. The anticipated deficits per year will now be 2 trillion a year for the next 2 years, Paul said. Paul says he will vote against the House bill because it includes a provision to raise the debt ceiling by another 4 trillion to allow the government to keep borrowing through the 2026 midterm election. Again, why? I think the problem for conservatives is they lose their high moral ground. These will be their deficits, he said. These will be GOP spending bills, GOP deficits, and there is no change in the direction of the country. If anything, the projection is the deficits will get worse. I saw a projection yesterday by some group showing deficits over 3 trillion, he added. He said the spending cuts in the package were wimpy, while stating that they're also increasing spending. They got a $300 billion increase in spending for the military and the border, he said. We don't need another 46 billion for a border wall. There's nothing conservative about this. And he's not wrong. He's right. Like I've said before, we could have a border all across the southern region that extends from California all the way through parts of Texas, right? Because that's the border they're talking about. But if you do not have policy that goes along with that border, the wall means nothing. It literally means nothing, right? Now, people coming over the border should know, okay, if you come here, you're going right back home and you will never have a chance of reentry to get into this country, period. Now, if that was the standard, people would never come into this country the wrong way. They wouldn't. They'd be afraid to. They'd be like, oh, wow, I don't want to blow my chances of being in America if I come here illegally. But they come here because they can be paid under the table, because people will give them aid and comfort if they invade our country. Because, see, that's what we've seen for the past 4 years. So this wall means nothing without proper legislation. Well, we don't talk about that part. They never mention that part. They only truly mention what they, I don't want to say what they want to hear, but it's not what I want to hear. I want to hear, we're going to, update our immigration laws to ensure that along with this wall that's being built, that people understand how to enter our country properly. And it's not coming through the southern border. That is not the proper port of entry. Here's the proper ports of entry to come into our country. These are the documents that you're going to need. This is what you're going to have in place in order to come into our country. You're going to have a job. You're going to have a way to support yourself, because you cannot get on any type of federal aid. You cannot have a child here and call them a U.S. citizen and then attach yourself to government aid. I mean, it's those things. And that's just simple. That's just, maybe 3 pages laying it out. This is how you do it. But we're not doing that. We still want to spend money on a wall with no proper legislation behind it. Just saying, we need to fix that. Even a few centrist Republicans, such as Tom Tillis of North Carolina, who faces a tough reelection battle next year, say there needs to be more deficit reduction in the package. We probably still need to do a little more work on finding savings to get close to deficit neutral, Tillis told reporters Tuesday. And I think they can do that. I think with some of the areas that they pointed out, they can do that. They definitely can get there. But again, we're not going to we're not going to give you guys any excuses of you couldn't get it done. Again, y'all need to figure out how to use ChatGPT and get it done. Even if you have, and I'm sure you have a government form of ChatGPT that keeps all the information. You know what I'm saying? They have ChatGPT software that you can get that is not internet based, that you can use. Okay? Just need y'all to get there, because this dragging your feet and acting like the American public, it should give you any sympathy. No, that needs to stop. So Senator Ron Johnson, a Republican in Wisconsin, has argued Senate Republican leaders to start over, okay, and begin work on a bill that would return the country to pre-pandemic spending levels, adjusted for inflation and population growth. I mean, I'm okay with that. And I think because some of the bills that were drafted and pushed through during the pandemic, everybody was just in a heightened emotional state, and they really weren't thinking long term. They weren't. They said that they were, and they weren't. And here we are, right? So there's that. So he called the deficit reduction measures in the House bill a joke. Johnson added he supports extending Trump's expiring 2017 tax cuts, but he doesn't want to provide new tax relief in the pending budget reconciliation package unless negotiators can find a way to fully offset their costs. Okay. We're going from 2.2 trillion in annual deficits to averaging between 2.5 trillion and 2.6 trillion. The number one goal of this reconciliation ought to be to reduce that 10-year and those annual deficits, not increase them, he said. Johnson said at a minimum, the bill must not increase those deficits for him to vote to support it. Take a look at what's happening to the bond markets, he said. They're not happy because they realize we're becoming less and less credit worthy. That's a very dangerous place. And it is, because our credit rating did drop from a AAA to an I want to say it's like AA, little A1, which is still decent, but it's not AAA. It's not at the top. So, yeah, and that's just sad. So Moody's recent downgrading of the nation's credit rating, citing Congress's failure to agree on measures to reverse the trend of annual fiscal deficits and growing interest costs. The Wisconsin senator warned that every 1% increase in interest rates cost the U.S. government an additional 360 billion, over 370 billion annually to service the national debt. He said while reforms to Medicaid and the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is better known as SNAP, are said to reduce spending by 880 billion. He argued the real savings we're actually going to realize is probably not much. It's definitely under 1.3% in savings, he said. Well, because such a large number, right? You think, oh my gosh, it's such a large number, but it's like 1.3%. But then again, you got to think a lot of the people that were here that were receiving those benefits are no longer here. And hopefully over time, there can be even less people here on those benefits. Their benefits should be cut immediately if they are not here legally. Even if they've had children on the soil, that should not make them eligible. Yeah. And that's where that whole birthright citizenship thing harms our country. It does not help our country. So, asked about the new work requirements the House drafted for Medicaid, Johnson replied with a dose of sarcasm, whoop-de-doo. Really? We just kept capturing all of it. So, Senate Majority Leader John Thune said Thursday that there would be a strong push by members of the Senate GOP conference for more deficit reduction in the bill. But the problem is that many of the proposals to cut spending already face opposition from other Republican senators. For example, Senator Susan Collins of Maine, Lisa Murkowski of Alaska, Josh Hawley of Missouri, and Jerry Moran of Kansas have warned against Medicaid reforms that would reduce benefits or threaten the finances of rural hospitals. Okay. And Mazarski, Moran, Tillis, and Senator John Curtis of Utah have warned against the sudden repeal of renewable energy tax breaks and incentives that they say would destabilize the clean energy industry and possibly strand deployed capital, leading to turmoil and job loss. Yeah, because see, there was a big boom a couple of years ago for this renewable energy. And so a lot of people built companies on it, and a lot of companies made adjustments to how they function to bring more people on to add to the job market. So, yeah, I can see it. So I'm not going to read more of it. I could continue to read all the way through, but you guys get the gist. Right now, the Senate is, going through the actual budget to make sure that if and when it is passed, that it is not, that the spending isn't going up over time, that the spending is either stable or going down. I would like the going down part. I would like to see it go from 2.2 to 1.2, right, in our spending, because I think over time we should become more efficient, not less efficient, especially if we're investing monies, right? Again, y'all need to get some Chat GPT software inside of the in the government and use it to your benefit, not to your deficit. And with that, we're going to take a quick break and we'll see you guys on the other side.
All sides.
And we are back to talk about a little bit more financial news that's been going on. So the Treasury Secretary Besant, other countries' currencies rising, not US dollar falling. So that is very interesting to me. So the Bloomberg Dollar Spot Index dropped as much as 0.07% on Friday, extending into year-to-date loss over 7%. The US dollar has now declined in 4 of the last 5 sessions as renewed tariff threats from former President Donald Trump, hmm, targeting both the European Union and Apple Inc., deepened investor concerns about the broader implications of his trade agenda on the US economy. Now, I've heard of people, talking about like how will these tariffs actually affect us, right? In the long term, right? Is it going to bring the dollar down? Is it going to make the dollar stronger? Right? You hear all these conversations, especially for people that are investors, right? So a substantial hike. Ooh, hopefully you guys can see that. Let me make that a little bit bigger. It's like I can see it, but can you see it? That are sitting there with me. Much better. A substantial hike in tariffs on U.S. imports from the EU once again raises the risk of recession. In the US, along with increasing policy and economic uncertainty, said Arup Jurati, a strategist at Wells Fargo in New York. Friday's losses persisted dissipate assurances from Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who told Bloomberg Television's Wall Street Week with David Weston that the U.S. could finalize several major trade agreements within weeks. Bessent also pushed back on the characterizing the dollar as weak, arguing that recent foreign exchange movements were more gains in other currencies than broad softening of the dollar. So it's basically saying, yeah, we're not down for the count. So the greenback slide provided a boost to all of the groups of 10 currency counterparts. The New Zealand and Australian dollars each climbed more than 1%, while the Japanese yen also gained ground. So dollar jitters, investment sentiment toward the dollar has been deteriorating for months. Speculative traders, including hedge funds and asset managers, now hold approximately 6.5 billion in short dollar positions, the highest level since September, according to data from the Commodity Futures Trading Commission for the week ending May 13th. Market unease has also been fueled by the Senate's review from Trump's tax bill, right, which includes a debt ceiling increase that the Treasury argues is essential to avoid a potential default as early as August or September. The version of the bill passed by the House is projected to add hundreds of billions of dollars annually to the federal deficit. Oh my gosh, y'all. I have to tap out. It's just a lot, when thinking about some of these things. And I know a lot of you is like, okay, my head is going to explode. And so with that, I'm going to take another quick break and we're going to have our guests on next. I was hoping to have Miss Kennedy on first, but I've got some other people waiting to come up. So with that, we're going to go into our break and then bring our guests up. So I will see you guys on the other side. And we are back from our break. Thank you so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered 7 to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday. And this is our last Wednesday of the month, and we celebrate Wednesday with Women and Wellness. And I have two special guests that I'm going to bring on today, Gabrielle Clark, better known as Gabs, and Dr. Nikki Johnson. So let's bring them on. I do not do all those little sound effects. You know how people have like the applause in the background? I haven't gotten there yet, y'all. I need a producer. So if any young person out there would love to help me, call me. That's all I'm saying. Just give me a ring because I need you. So I'm so grateful that you guys are taking out the time to come on the show today to really
It's going to be 30
just
minutes.
talk to our women and young people about what you're doing in the community and where they can find you also. So Gabs, we'll start with you.
I am the founder of Affirming Reality. And right now my website is down, but you can find me on X at GabsClark5. And you can also email me, gabsclark@affirmingreality.com. And I help people parent their children into desistance from social transition. And what does that mean? That means that I help parents pull their children, their school-age children and young adult children out of the gender cult, just like I did for my own daughter. The program is working worldwide, and we are expanding. We're doing more things to try to help as many parents as possible. Hopefully in the future, we'll be able to teach some health professionals, medical professionals, and mental health professionals about the program and how to execute it so that their patients and clients can benefit from it as well.
Nice, nice. And Dr. Nikki?
Oh boy, who I am is a rather long explanation, but I will call myself a reformed physician. I believe that I have been called to be a healer. So that is who I am, kind of the crux of who I am. But what I am doing right now is quite a mix of a lot of things. I am educating our next generation of
Yeah, I was like, baby, you got
nursing
time.
students. I am also
baby,
trying
girl,
to
you got
educate
problem.
the masses about what truly making America healthy again means. And so I do that on my X account at Not a Provider MD. And I have quite a long history of doing health policy advocacy with multiple organizations, some that I've headed, some that I've been a leader in, and some that I've just worked in. And I am working very closely with Gabs and Affirming Reality and helping to coach these parents to get their kids on the right path towards a healthy adulthood.
Yes, and I appreciate the work that both of you are doing in that space because I don't think a lot of people really think about what the mental challenges that come along with a child that gets caught up in the transgender ideology, and it is an ideology. And it's really unfortunate that we even have to have this conversation. My husband was like, President Trump had to put an executive order forth saying they're men and women. He shouldn't have had to do that, but he did. Right? That's how important it is for us to really get back to being normal. But I wanted both of you, whichever one of you want to talk first, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And what, suggestions would you give to individuals that are either caught up in the ideology or parents, friends, relatives, because we don't really think about the people that have to interact and how, their mental well-being and the challenges that come along with having someone caught up in that ideology. I'll let either one of you go first. I know it was a roundabout conversation.
Well, honestly, I think this is very this is great, and thank you again. Thank you for having us because I don't think I said that and given us this opportunity to talk about this extremely important topic. I think what's happening right now is that a lot of people, parents, including activists on the other side of this issue within the gender queer cult, are thinking that the landscape is changing at the federal level because of executive orders and recently issued Health and Human Services guidance on children who are presenting with gender identity issues. What I think Gabs and I are doing is something that is not being talked about much or not being addressed much. And that is the cultural element that actually brings children to this position and parents to the position where they no longer are recognizing their children and on the brink of despair because they don't really have anyone else to go to or the help that they need to desist their children. We don't hear the term desist often at all, really outside of our own space. And that means to take a child who is having a gender identity crisis and get them to value who they are and accept the sex that they are actually born as is aligned with the belief about what their role is in the world and what their true, gender is in the world. We're not seeing that piece or that element addressed before the child even gets to that point. When they do get to that point, when they start to think about that, and what happens in the time period before they decide that they want to start using medications and surgical options to, what the term that they use is transition to the opposite sex. We are not addressing the cultural piece that led us to that point, and that is something that I think is still not being addressed. And if we want to give people hope, I think that we're the hope. I think that we have the right ideas to help people get through that and reverse the course.
Okay, thank you for that. And Gabs?
I always tell people first and foremost, get off of your devices. I mean, just ditch them if at all possible, especially parents who are trying to encourage their children, their school-age children, to desist. And it doesn't necessarily have to be from gender ideology, because there's so much. Our children are getting radicalized to do all kinds of crazy stuff. They're getting radicalized in all kinds of different directions. And escaping from the mind prison that is your phone or social media or whatever your device, even video games, escaping that when they're still young enough to care and they haven't just succumbed to this new way of living, like so many other people have. So many others have just been captured by this, and they don't even want to fight it anymore because they think it's too big. It's too big of a giant to slay. If you are able to you yourself get off of your devices and model that behavior for your children, then you and your children are going to benefit from that much, much more in the long run. Communication improves, and it may be a little rocky in the beginning, because I can tell you, I am not super, super nice when I'm going through withdrawals from my phone, like so many others. Your family has to learn how to communicate again with each other and with the outside world, and even with themselves when they're not being influenced by their handhelds. And so I would say that as a start, and just in doing that, a lot more things will become clearer. And I think that, just like Dr. Johnson just said, we really we really are not talking a lot about what happens whenever gender affirming care is not an option. Where do these children go for the support, because they can't go to the therapist? The therapists are, are hell bent on affirming, even if that means that they can't get any kinds of medical procedures. Then those therapists still are advocating for this false reality, and this imaginary fantasy of transitioning. And so you can't, you really do have to actively desist your children who are captured by gender ideology, because you can't just allow it to fester. It is fostering a delusion, and that is never good. There's a lot more harms from social transition than just, it's not just, funny nicknames and, dressing up like a rodeo clown. There's more to it than that. There's a lot of maladaptive coping behaviors that go on with social transition. And we see even things that border on child abuse and even child sexual abuse that should be considered. I mean, they're making packers for 4-year-old girls, and for those people in your audience who don't know what a packer is, please, parental advisory. A packer is basically a fake phallus to put inside a little girl's underwear. I mean, what adult would do that? And these are being manufactured and made on and sold on platforms, Amazon and things like that. So this is what social transition looks like in the real world. It's not just silly TikToks and and funny nicknames. It's a lot more dangerous than that. So desistance is paramount. And
it is. What I think the thing that concerns me the most is the educators being telling the children not to talk to their parents.
Yes.
I don't know how much you guys can address that. I know, Gabs, that you actually had a court case that you went through, but this is happening, and they actually have state laws in California and in Washington, D.C., where the children are not obligated to talk to the parents. The teachers are not obligated to talk to the parents. And yet at the end of the day, the parents are responsible. And if they don't go along with it, then they get the kids taken away. It's very confusing. But
yeah. I mean, I have not participated in a case, personally, with what happened with my daughter. My case was because of my son. But then I filed the first federal lawsuit against woke indoctrination in America, and that was primarily for compelled speech from a civics class that was involving CRT. But it also did involve gender ideology as well. I mean, he was asked to list his gender identity and his sexual orientation, something he did not want to discuss with a teacher that he's never met before, that he just has seen on a computer screen. You know what I mean? That was, certainly he didn't want to discuss it with that teacher, but he shouldn't have to discuss it with any teacher. It's none of their business. And our teachers shouldn't be discussing our children's sexual preferences and things like that at all. I mean, this teacher actually told her classroom her sexual orientation and her sexual preferences. I mean, that alone should be justification for that teacher losing their licensure. But it's being sanctioned by different states. I have, however, given my testimony in multiple amicus briefs for other cases throughout the country. because there have been parents who have filed lawsuits against their schools and their school districts when their children were being socially transitioned without their permission. But this is one of those parents' rights issues of our age, right? The biggest, one of the biggest, is socially transitioning our children, and even recommending medicalization of our children without the parents' permission. I mean, and I think this was kind of an offshoot of what was going on with abortion at some point, where our children, our daughters, were being actively advised to seek out abortions when it was discovered that they were pregnant, and not telling their parents. And this is an evolution of that, I believe. And I think that it is high time for parents to start taking more of an active role, not just with their school boards or with their the politics or their state governments or even local governments, federal government, but they need to start taking a more active role in their children's lives, so that they are their children's safest space in their children's minds, not just in their own minds.
Okay,
I
and
like
Dr.
I
Nikki?
like to piggyback on that, just because Gab's. I think that this is really an important issue, and it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, that the things that are happening at the federal level aren't addressing these specific state level issues. These state level school districts are using existing federal law and statutes like FERPA and Title IX to enact these policies that actually allow children to allow the students, teachers and schools to keep this information from parents. It speaks to the broader goal of the entire movement, the genderqueer movement, which I think is heavily aligned with Marxist ideology, or at least very deeply rooted socialist ideology that divides people into classes of oppression versus oppressed. And in that they truly and fundamentally believe that they are protecting these children as an oppressed class of people. They're protecting their civil rights and their individual rights. So they firmly believe what they're dishing out. And they're using existing laws to actually enact these policies. Parents, oftentimes, just like any other social contagion type of an issue, believes that their child will not succumb to it, or that their family will not be a part of it. And this has been happening within the schools at the preschool level on up for many, many years now. It only came to light for us more recently during the pandemic, when we were watching our kids take Zoom classes and people were reporting what teachers were saying and doing. And then parent groups started taking deep dives to look at what was happening within the schools. And then they just stopped being secretive about it and were out in the open passing laws and policies to do this. Yeah. So it can happen to you. It can happen to many families. There are some particular vulnerabilities in families that allow this to happen. And that is one of the things that we try to tackle with Affirming Reality, is identifying these types of families, these types of children who are more susceptible or more vulnerable to this type of thing. And typically it is these children who are completely absorbed, or families who are absorbed in technology, devices, internet. They are using the internet for far more than just a tool to get through everyday life activities. They are using devices to and social interaction on the internet to replace live social interaction with humans. They are also using it to replace physical activity and connections with
Yeah.
humans as well. So if you and your family especially and particularly wealthy families who can afford these types of children to have these types of devices, afford the amount of time that they can spend on it, or you're unfortunately very working families, people who work hard and are away from their children, you're not spending kind of quality time with your family doing activities together and understanding what's going on in your child's daily life. If you're not keeping that connection with the schools and understand what teachers are actually saying in the classroom, what curriculum they're actually teaching, even at the private school level, where my children are in private school level, there are certain state required or state offered programs to teach about sexuality and reproductive health and reproductive rights and however many quotations you want to put around it. These programs are offered and used as resources even at the private school level. So the overarching recommendation here is that you as a parent stay connected with your child, both physically, spiritually, and mentally. Know what's going on, who is teaching them, and what they're teaching them, and what they are exposing them to.
Well, thank you so much for that. And thank you guys so much for just your breadth of, knowledge in this space, because to your point, a lot of individuals don't even know you exist. And those who have gone through this type of transition, they're just kind of left out there in this void. So I'm going to let you guys each have a closing words. And thank you so much again for joining us on Women in Wellness Wednesday. We'll start with you, Miss Nikki.
Well, look, I think I like to always give some hope. We do have a solution. Every problem needs a solution. Actually, I write a Substack every now and then, and the title of my Substack is called "There's Always a Solution." So if we're going to be complaining about something, and understanding that there's a problem, that we should be looking for the solution, whether that comes from us or not. And I do believe that Affirming Reality does have a solution, and that solution does start with the parents. You as the parent, if you're dealing with this issue within your family, you do have the power to heal your child and bring your child back. You do have that. You have the power. You have the ability to do that. Sometimes you just need a little bit of coaching. A lot of parents do have the natural instinct to be able to do this with their own child. It does take a lot of work. It is a lifelong commitment from the moment that child was in your womb or the day you decided to adopt. That is your lifelong commitment until the day you take your last breath. And so it is not going to be something that's always very easy to do. Some cases will be a little bit tougher than others, but it is absolutely possible for you to reconnect with your child and help them to develop a normal, healthy adulthood and to regain your family's overall connection and love and support.
Awesome. And Ms. Gabbs?
I would say I am living proof that that you don't need anybody else to make that decision for you. There is help available, right? There is help available, and you just have to be willing to seize it. You just have to be willing to fight very hard for your children. We send 18-year-olds off to other countries to go to war for our freedom. We need to be ready to go to war for our freedom for our children as well. And no matter the cost. And I think that that was the approach that I took when both of my children were captured by this wokeness, when both of my children were being affected by the indoctrination in schools. And since then, I have helped hundreds, maybe even thousands of families regain some normalcy in their lives and fight back for the protection of their children. And so I think that we all have it within us, especially if you're an American. I feel like Americans have that have that have that combative and I don't know, rebel spirit.
Fighting spirit.
Yes,
Yeah.
that
Well,
fighting
we at
spirit.
least have it in our ancestry. That's as much as
Yeah.
I'm.
I'm gonna say
Yeah, we've
I'm
gotten
gonna
a
say
little
this.
complacent these days. We got a little comfortable. Well, we'll just say that.
I'm gonna say that it's in our DNA. We just need to
Yep.
we just need to dig it out and revive it and take our power into our own hands and go and get our children back and
Yes.
save our own society, save our own culture. It can be done.
Yes.
Yep.
And thank you guys so much again for joining me on Women in Wellness Wednesday. And again, you guys can check me out here on Unfiltered Vision News, 7 to 9 a.m., bringing you the news unfiltered. And I'm so grateful for my guests, Dr. Nikki and Gabs, joining us today on Women in Wellness Wednesday. Thank you so much, guys. And we'll see you next time.
All right. Thanks again for having us. Take care.
Okay. And those two women, they are amazing. And I'm so grateful that they got to share with us just their experience, just their breadth of knowledge within that space, because it is different for those going through the transgender ideology and really feeling alone in that space and really not knowing who to turn to. But Affirming Reality is out there. And like Dr. Nikki said, she's on X and so is Gabs. So just if you Google search either one, you will find them and you can definitely reach out to them for support. And with that, we will see you guys on the other side.
The browsers of today are broken. They've been overtaken by a barrage of sneaky and annoying ads, trackers that follow your habits, and cookies that build profiles and all sorts of other internet clutter that's taking precedence over the content that you want to see. In fact, these useless bites can take up to a whopping 50% of page load times, with a third of it anxiously trying to learn more about you. To make matters worse, some ad blockers are even letting ads through when large advertisers pay them. But do you really want a leaky ad blocker? It's because of these very reasons that we developed Brave, a new browser that kicks internet crud to the curb and makes it faster, safer, and better to surf the web than your current browser. With Brave, everything you need is built right in. We integrated technology that automatically blocks trackers, annoying ads, and shields everything that can cramp your style and destruct your privacy. With it, you can expect increased speeds nearly 2 times faster on laptops and up to 4 times faster on mobile. And unlike any other browser, Brave allows you to support your favorite publishers with automatic micropayments. So it's a win-win for you and your favorite sites. To top it all off, Brave is open source because we truly believe it's our web and we need to fix it together. So ask yourself this question: do you want a web browser made for the internet of today? If so, try Brave. It's faster, safer, and ad-free.
And we are back. Thank you guys so much for joining me here on Unfiltered Vision News. My name is Dr. Shaki Noni Nichols, bringing you the news Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. And with that, we have another special guest, I promised. And I'm so excited to meet her. See, she doesn't know this, right? But I've been following her for at least over a year now. And I saw her on X and then I saw her on TikTok and I was hooked and addicted to all of her posts that she has. And she has agreed to come on my show. So I'm so, so excited. So I want to welcome her to the stage now, Miss Karen Kennedy.
Hello.
And like I said, like I said, I don't have all the applause stuff. I wish I did. So I'm going to give you some.
Oh, we don't need that. How are you? sort of
I'm
letting
good.
off.
Oh,
But
no, you're fine. I've always wanted to just tell you, I'm so sorry for your loss of your husband. And I'm just so grateful for how you fight in his honor every single day with every single post you give us. I mean, I feel so connected to you because of how personal you are and how no holds bar you are. You give it. You know what I'm
thank
saying? You call balls and strikes, period.
yes, I can. Sometimes I cuss, but Jesus loves me. I'm just, it's it's very personal to me. So
Mhm.
it just kind of comes out. Sometimes I pray. Well, no, actually, before every video I post, I pray, and I just ask for God's strength and his favor. And it's just it's the my husband actually passed away the same year my daughter passed away.
Oh, wow.
In He passed away in July, and my daughter passed away in August of that same year. And that was due to the horrible death care system of Obamacare. And
Mm.
our that's it's such a strange thing. That year was very difficult. It was 2010, by the way. And this is why I'm very passionate about what I do and informing the public. And
Mm.
we need to be armed with knowledge, and what you do with it from there. Um, you work out your own salvation with fear and trembling, and get involved. And I've done that on the local level, and I'm looking into taking that to the next step. So I am so honored you asked me to be on here. I'm just
Really?
believe it. I'm still just, thank you so much. Thank you.
Oh, you are so welcome. But like I said, you have such a strong voice, and I really learn a lot from your posts, just what's going on in Colorado, and then things that go on at the federal level because you actually held a federal position. And so I'm grateful just for the information that you've shared with us, like regarding the Doge cuts. You're like, guys, calm down. This is how things actually work that you don't see that the federal government's doing to you. So just grateful for that information. And so, with Women in Wellness Wednesday, it's not just about the physical, spiritual, mental wellness, it's also about political wellness. And I think that's something that we really don't get into because we're, just abused emotionally in politics. That's my opinion.
You would be
And
correct.
so that's why I'm pushing political wellness.
I concur wholeheartedly. And um if you people I've often heard say, I don't really get into politics. Well, politics is into you, and
Mhm.
eventually it will meet you at your front door and in your home. People let the devil in and they don't even realize it. I was listening to the previous segment. These two women are amazing. I really would appreciate it if you could put me in touch with them, because I don't know if you're aware, but in Colorado, they just passed House Bill 25-1312. It's been a uh, it's been one of the left's favorite um, bills that they were trying to pass, and they did. And this so-called governor signed it, and it involves um, they have criminalized misgendering or dead naming in the state of Colorado. You can have your children taken away from you if you, as a parent, they have put this in state law. It is bizarre, kooky, upside down world in Colorado. These Marxists have lost. They are all. They're just out. They don't care if you know it. They have. This is going to go way over the top, and I'm going to make a video about this because I don't think people realize it's going to go to where because these people in Colorado are so insane. It will be, well, the school will call you up and say, you need to come get your child because your child has been expelled for misgendering someone because they don't want to call them, their pronouns or whatever. And you need to come get your child. And this is just a scenario, but eventually it's going to lead to this. You need to come get your child because your child has been expelled from school. And oh, by the way, we're going to go ahead and file charges against this kid and push for your child to be in juvie for a year for misgendering someone's child and not calling them their proper pronoun. This is a demonic.
Insane.
These people, they fought hard for this one, but we fought back. The Libertarian Party of Colorado has been really, really vital in fighting back against some of these issues, but they are determined. They are also there's a Christian camp. I was up there in the mountains just this past weekend, and I saw it for the first time. And it's Idra Hajj. Yes, that's the name of the camp. And it stands for I'd rather have Jesus. It's a Christian camp for children. Well, of course, the state of Colorado can't leave well enough alone and can't leave persecuting Christians alone. So they're forcing the children who are coming for summer camp this year to all, everybody just shower in the same bathrooms. If a male child identifies as a female child, then he, being 15 and almost fully grown, can shower with little girls. Colorado needs some help.
Well, a lot of people that live in Colorado escape from California. That's why Colorado looks the way it does. That's not how Colorado was originally, because it was very much, it was a Republican state.
Yeah,
very conservative.
I've heard that was way before I arrived, but it's
right. You got some of those, escapees of California, because that's California mentality. It just is. Absolutely. I'm very surprised they were able to pass something like that, because each state has a constitution, and that violates the First and the 10th Amendment, because the 10th Amendment says you can't create any laws that would take away prior laws. And being the First Amendment, you have freedom of speech, and you're demanding somebody do a certain type of speech that completely violates the First Amendment. So like I said, I'm shocked, but I'm not shocked, right? Because they've learned from Florida, and we will just use DeSantis as an example. If you hold the majority, you can kind of do whatever you want, but here's the linchpin. You can't do whatever you want. And that law can be taken to the Supreme Court, which it should. Now it's going to disseminate everywhere that you can't do that. You cannot do that.
Correct. And it will be, settled law at that point. And they have, the state of Colorado is already being sued from several angles. They are being sued because the governor should have never signed it. But these, dare I say, these individuals and their proclivities toward children is insatiable. They are, there was no reason for that. So as I mentioned in the previous segment, when you had those beautiful women, nobody here knows about that. Those terms that they used, I've never heard.
Wow.
And the people in this state would so benefit from that level of knowledge and experience. I am so happy that I caught those beautiful women. So please extend my greetings to them, and I would definitely like to talk to them.
Oh, absolutely. I will call them both and set up a meeting, because they're definitely, looking to help others, and they want to extend this through all 50 states and teaching other individuals how to be counselors, because like they both said, it's a space that nobody really thinks about the social aspect of it and how these children even got there. right? And just having proper terms, because a lot of times with these children, they go through transition, there's nobody left for them. They're just tossed out. It's just like,
Correct.
yay, you did all of this, rah, 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 rah. You got all the rah-rahs and all the praise. And then after everything is done and you're having issues, there's nobody there for you. And they don't have to be.
Wow.
That's the detriment. And nobody knows that part. It's crazy.
Wow. That is a great point. So, and then you have the detransitioners who are,
Yeah. And no one's there for them.
Yeah.
The psychologists, because they're like, we don't know what to do with you. We know how to get you to, basically throw your whole life away. But now that you've thrown your whole life away, we can't help you because you've made your decision. It is definitely what Satan does, right? Satan will tell you, oh yeah, this is great. This is wonderful. Right. And then when you make that decision, he said, I didn't tell you to do that.
Right.
But you said it was great, but I didn't tell you to. I didn't tell you to use your free will to make that decision.
Right. That is so true. Satan is a Democrat, I swear.
Look, the way they're rolling these days. But see, I wanted to extend your wellness segment because you do follow politics, and I just wanted you, outside of that bill, is there anything else you wanted to make us aware of or share with us that we should, know that's happening in the political realm?
Let's see. One thing I've noticed that is that's taking place is those of us who have been in this conservative space for a long time, because I've been at this since 2015, and we have been abused. And I have had so many of my social media accounts nuked. That's why you don't see me on TikTok anymore, because they don't particularly care for Black conservative voices, particularly women. So they just nuke my account and say, oh, that sometimes they give me an explanation, sometimes they don't. But this news is where we're at in this political space is extremely important. One of the big things that's happening is the ICE arrests. And I'd like to talk a little bit about that because people are going to start to you have these people who come after these ICE raids. Well, when these ICE raids are happening, and they're trying to stop it, and they're getting in between, the ICE agents and the other federal agents who are conducting these operations. And they say, well, you need a warrant. Is it signed by a judge? Is it signed by a judge? They don't need that. That is a fact. Their supposed due process has already taken place because all of these individuals that they are starting to go after have already had ICE detainers on them. Right. They have been through the court system and they have already determined you are removable, but you've been running and we haven't caught you, but now we caught you. So what's striking to me in this time is the lengths that these people are willing to go to protect these foreign nationals who are unlawfully present in this country after destroying the country during the 2020 pandemic and forcing lockdowns like they did in the state of Colorado, forcing the medical procedures, we'll call it, and we still haven't recovered from that. We still haven't recovered from what happened to the youth in this country who had to do drive-by graduations. We still have not recovered from the online learning platforms that rendered children completely disinterested from education. So, all of that said, back to the ICE raids, people are going to have to get used to this kind of shock and awe these operations that are happening in broad daylight, because no matter how many of these activist judges, and that is something that should never be in the same sentence. They are completely diametrically opposed. You can't be impartial if you're an activist, because you're fighting with your belief system in mind, and you're totally not in your space of executing proper jurisprudence. So there has been a rash of national injunctions with these judges every time President Trump initiates an executive order. You got some judge in Colorado. There was this judge here. You got judges in DC. They'll go and they'll find the judges that they know will be who will do whatever they're told, basically. And so here they come with these nationwide injunctions, and it's just, over 200 of them. This has never happened before. They are blowing up the judicial system. They are blowing up. It is mind-boggling to see the lengths that these people are willing to go to with their TDS, their Trump derangement syndrome, and how they are willing to just put this country into, they say, a constitutional crisis, but I think it's worse than that, because they brainwashed so many people. I mean, have you seen these ICE raids and as of yet, and how people are being rounded up because they're violent? They're violent. They're already criminals because they crossed the border illegally. I don't care who you are, mamas, daddies, aunties, uncle, baby mamas, mamas. If you cross the border illegally without authorization under the Biden administration, you have committed crimes. So
yes, absolutely.
have you seen these? And how do you feel about that?
And Tom Homan, he actually had an interview where he said, we are trying to work with local law enforcement, right, when they have detained these individuals, to actually go to the detention centers to get them, so we don't have to put the public at risk. However, these detention centers release these people before ICE can get there.
They do that in Colorado.
And they're doing it on purpose. And to me, that's where federal arrests need to be made. Because if they're doing this on purpose, then they need to be arrested, period, because they're violating federal law. They're putting the public at risk senselessly. Right. And I think the one you're talking about, there's two, actually, the judge that tried to, get her people out through a back door, and they still got them, right, because they had to come out somewhere. And then the other one, I think she was trying to defend a female, and they found out that ICE was going to show up, and they made this big old scene. And now as a judge, she's going to be arrested. I was like, okay, so you're going to be disbarred and arrested. Another one, I think in California, he had somebody hiding in his house. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? You're the judge. This is why people are so disgusted with the judicial system. It's because of people like this. And it's like, how did they get in there? You cannot, to your point, you can't be an activist and a judge, and you can't legislate from the benches. And that's what they're doing. Because I have people in my life, they're like, well, if a judge did it, it's got to be factual. I said, no, not. I'm a paralegal. No.
See,
I absolutely do know. They're bringing all of these, I would call them slap suits, right? Which can be thrown out of court, but they can put them in place to bide them time.
That's exactly right. You're right.
That's all it is. They're like speed bumps, right? And they're like, if we can create enough speed bumps legally, maybe people will get tired of coming after us. But see, what they haven't realized, and they're kind of slow on this one, is you're actually setting up a precedent to create a situation where you're not going to be able to get away with anything. Like the Supreme Court, they just already said that a lower court cannot tell the executive branch what to do. That's why 350 Venezuelans are getting deported.
Right. As they should. This has never happened to this degree. I mean, this is it's almost, you wonder, what do they have on you? Like all of you, because there's no way that you're all true believers in your delusion. And they think that they are, I think you guys mentioned this in the other segment, that they think in their psychotic minds that they are right, that they are helping the children, as you were discussing, that they are the ones who are helping them through their oppression. And it's no, you're destroying 250 years of legal
legal precedent and progress. It's sad. Like, I don't think our judicial system has been perfect, right? But it was set up to be fair.
Yes, it's the best in the world.
That's why people try to fight to get here. But when you're just willy-nilly saying, okay, well, if you step on our soil, that means you're covered by the Constitution. No, it doesn't. Jasmine, correct it. Let me correct you, ma'am. No, it does not. It means that if you are here on our soil, you will have to go to your embassy if something really goes down, if you're a true foreign national. Now, if you're just here illegally, you get automatically deported. There's nothing for you because you committed a crime. You did not come here through the proper port of entry. We have laws. And it's a slap in the face, in my opinion, when people come here illegally to those who actually have applied to be here and be here naturalized legally. They're not even thinking about those individuals. And these are the Democrats. They don't care about you guys doing it right. They're supporting the people that are doing it wrong. And it's crazy. It's crazy to me. I'm in my 50s and I'm like, what happened to our congressmen and women? What are you doing? Right. It's so crazy. You have to laugh to keep from like wanting to punch through a wall. Because they're like,
every day.
What have you
every day? They don't. It's like, wait a minute. I've never seen a judge take a defendant out through the back door who's an American. Americans get in trouble, and this is what they're trying to see. They need the majority of public support to accept this delusion, and if they can have that, then they can have their mobs who show up at these ICE raids, blubbering and foaming at the mouth and screeching about, needing some judge signed it. So we have laws in place. And as you just mentioned, you come here illegally and people are confused. I was in the federal agency during the height of these so-called migrant crisis times, and my coworkers, the entire agency was tasked with stopping your regular job. Stop what you're doing. I know you work in a nice office, it's air conditioned, whatever, but we need you to stop and drop everything. During the pandemic, by the way, we need you to go to the border, and we need you to go to other cities in the interior that they had already started setting up shop to process these illegals once they were handed to our people by CBP, that is Customs and Border Protection. Yeah. Wow. Federal employees made bank. You hear me? I'm just, I don't care. I'm telling it. Federal employees made bank on border duty. They made bank, double overtime, triple overtime, and they're already up around a GS-11, GS-12, GS-15. Can you imagine the amount of money? Some of these people paid off their house.
Oh, yeah. Easy during that time. The Appropriations Act of 2021, they set aside like $500 billion to do a lot of this stuff. That's outside of the $12 billion for the unaccompanied minor aliens. I mean, there were billions of dollars set aside for this. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. For these NGOs, oh my God, that's USAID. That's when they started going, oh, because Trump, and Doge, they started clawing that money back, and that's why they're rabid. That's why they're rabid.
till today, they are still fighting with that. I think there was a judge who they're trying to stop the release of, I forget which department it is, Department of Education. Yeah, they're trying to say that you can't fire some of these employees, and I'm like, really? If honestly, I mean, to get rid of the agency would take an act of Congress, but it is under the president's purview to fire anybody in the Department of Education because it falls under him.
Yes.
This is what people don't realize. There are certain agencies that fall under the executive branch.
Correct. You are so right.
That's what it is.
Yes, it is. And they know this and they don't care. They are just hoping that the public, if they can get the public to accept it, because the public doesn't know these ins and outs. They don't know the laws. They've never been a federal employee. They've never worked in the legal system as you have, for example. They don't know anything. They're armchair quarterback. They're sitting on their couch watching MSDNC and CNN, and they think they become some sort of expert, and they don't know. So they just do the outrage. And I keep, which I knew that as soon as these ICE raids started, that the I called them the Jezebel whore, Sodom and Gomorrah media, that they were going to start with the whiny violin stories. Oh, this poor mother get deported and she's been here for 35 years. Okay, well, she had 35 years to become a citizen or become naturalized. And she didn't bother. What
are we doing? I put Dollar Tree on blast this week with ICE. I was like, oh yeah, there was an employee at the cash register that couldn't speak English. I know you are not a citizen because at the very minimum, to become a citizen, you have to read and write and speak English fluently. Enough to have a job like that. Your manager shouldn't be covering for you. But see, we're not going to do California up here in Georgia. I've been there. I lived that. I'm just saying.
Oh, you lived in oh God.
See, I see the takeover. See, when I was 7 years old, I saw how the people my age had to be the translators for their parents and their grandparents. And that's how it started. And then you had all the ESL classes, and that took away the resources. I graduated high school with a 5th grade reading level. That's how bad the system is. And I'm in my 50s. Luckily, they caught it when I was in college and I was able to get to the reading level I needed to be. But not everybody has that. Yeah. Oh, they're destroying our country from the inside out. Like when I say it's a war and we got to stop people, it's a war. We got to stop people.
Indeed. Or they have no, what really boggles my mind is particularly the Black folks who are still willing to accept the Democrat Party after what they've done. They literally brought in foreigners from over 160 countries across the planet to replace us under this UN Migration Pact document that they have been following. They literally attempted to replace all of us, and they keep talking about reparations. You're not getting reparations. The illegals got the reparations. You get nothing. You will get nothing. You will now be in a merit-based system where you're going to get off Medicaid, you're going to get off welfare, and you are going to start to chart your own course and not have the government be your husband and the father of your children.
Right.
So this country's going in a better direction, and people are kind of shocked by what's going on. And that's the gnashing of teeth and the whining and the, oh, he's taking me off food stamps and oh, he's taking me off Medicaid. No, well, that's not true either, because there again, I was in the federal agency that started the unwinding process. It's called unwinding. Under Joe Biden, they started unwinding. This was a pandemic era action, and it guaranteed that anyone who applied for Medicaid got Medicaid. Everybody got on it, and including the illegals that they were bringing in here under the pandemic. And by the way, they never had to have the medical procedures. Never. As soon as they crossed, they went where they went. No shots required. Anyway, this Medicaid unwinding, I worked with region partners. We were region partners too, because they were afraid that this would be politically damaging to Joe Biden because he hadn't self-destructed at that point, and they were going to run him again in 2024 and steal another election. So they were trying to cover for what was happening with the unwinding and people being the Medicaid going from being governed on the federal level back to the states. And here's some money, here's some federal money for Medicaid program. Do with it what you will, but no, people don't know that the unwinding, and people were kicked off. Millions of people were kicked off Medicaid under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but it's not mainstream news because that would have been political suicide for them. And they were already underwater with the inflation and all the illegals and the other things that they were doing with all the transgender, and people started to see that administration was just crazy. Everything they were doing was crazy. So the Medicaid unwinding started under Joe Biden. And by the way, they robbed Medicare. They robbed Medicare of, what was it, over $200 billion?
Yeah.
To pay for their green energy, Green New Deal projects that are failing by the day. And President Trump is taking all that away through the EPA, for example. He appointed Lee Zeldin, who used to be up in New York, thank God. It's things are changing so fast that it's hard for them to keep up. It's hard for us to keep up, but they are changing for the better. They're changing for the better.
Yeah, and I'm really glad that, to what you were saying, just with the unwinding and the different things that were going on under Joe Biden, the one good thing that came out of the whole Medicare situation is that they can now negotiate the cost.
Correct.
That was the one it was like, that was the one thing that you did that was good.
Little thing.
That we can negotiate that part of it. And so I'm glad that the Trump administration is taking advantage of that. And I know you said, reparations is out the window, but one thing people that are looking into reparations is looking at Trump's 10-point plan that he did set aside for Black Americans, because he does see the need for it. But here's the thing, it's the execution, because what we've seen for the Black community over decades is that, organizations like the Congressional Black Caucus, organizations like the NAACP that were supposed to be helping the Black community have nothing but destroyed it and watch it be destroyed. And so there is a grassroots movement really rearing up to take over those organizations and right the wrongs, and really steer the ship. Because I have other politicians that are saying, let's bring trades back into the schools. Let's give people the skill sets that they need to actually be entrepreneurs, and to not necessarily have to work for somebody. And if they want to, they can, but they don't have to. And it's getting out of that mindset. And like you said, getting back to the merit-based system. It's like, there are some people that are in a situation where they do need assistance, but then there are other people that they need to be steered in the right direction to make better decisions, right? But to have a skill set that they can survive off of, not that they're having to beg bread. They'll be like, oh, give me a job. They're like, oh, you know what? I'm a carpenter, or, I'm an electrician, I'm a welder. I can actually utilize my skills over here. Right. And make some good money. See, people don't realize those positions that I just mentioned, they make over 6 figures a year.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do. Do you know what's coming back is what I had been taking some classes the last semester. I may do it again because I am able to go to school through the military, but I've already done school, but this is I'm just adding to my education portfolio, as it were. And I went there's a welding school within this school, and I went and I talked to the guys because I saw Miller is one of the top producers of welding equipment, and I watch off-road videos, and I do a lot of off-roading, and it's fun. So I said, Miller's there, let me go and talk to the Miller reps. And so what's happening is they're offering at this college the option for high school kids to take welding classes and to start welding for a few hours in high school, and then when they graduate, they go straight to the college and they get their certification and they can become master welders. The classes are full. Like you have to be on a waiting list.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
high school kids, these kids are Gen what are we? Gen Z, Gen Alpha,
Yeah.
Gen Z, mostly Gen
Yeah.
Z. They're figuring out, you know what? I don't have to go to these indoctrination centers for 4
No.
years.
Nope. 6
I
months.
can go get a job as a welder. I can get a job as a welder and start at $70,000, $80,000 a year coming out of high school.
Right.
That's how it
Exactly.
used to be. And you can afford a family on, one income.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And that's how it should be. Yeah. And I'm glad it is. And manufacturing is coming back. I know a lot of people scoffed at President Trump, but he did. I want to say there's the partnership with the Japanese steel manufacturer, and they're coming back. These things can come back because we already have the infrastructure built. You see the skeletons all along the road, right? So it's not that it can't come back. It's who's willing to bring it back, right? It's who's willing to start that company and have it be successful. And with the trade tariffs and everything going that President Trump is doing, it's put our country in a better position, and we need to take advantage of it so we can stay in a good position. Because I don't know what it is about people who want to see their own death and destruction, but it needs to stop. I don't understand it.
We live here. What the heck? We live here.
And you're bombing
in America.
You want to bomb
America.
us.
What? We live here.
And see, that's somebody that's entitled, who's never been anywhere else, who doesn't understand how, what it looks like to wake up without running water and no food, no refrigerator, no electricity. That's an entitled mindset. Because I'm like, okay, if you really don't like it, leave. Find somewhere else to be without comfort.
Don't let the door hit you on the way.
Look, there are plenty of options out there for you. And a lot of people that leave, because I think I watched one of your other videos, they'll move to places like Ghana or, over in Africa, and they come back like, what? Mm-hmm. Why did I leave? Mm-hmm. But, it was a good lesson. Mm-hmm. Just saying.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and see how that works out for you. They don't particularly like us here. They don't appreciate Western values, and they actually think they're better than us. So they don't really appreciate our way of what we call FBAs. And you had mentioned the president and his initiatives to set money aside. He did that in his first administration under what was called the Platinum Plan.
Yes. Yep. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm talking about.
Don't know about that.
Yeah.
And that was $500 billion set aside. We have spent right at $1 trillion to support illegal aliens over the past 4 years. And President Trump had that plan in place, but the Democrats just fought with the ridiculous Russia collusion and the impeachments and all of the things to try to keep him hemmed up so he couldn't run the country. And he did an absolutely amazing job, even with all the headwinds of these crazy liberals and their determination to get rid of him. They don't seem to understand what's happening here. God's hand is on him, and he ain't going nowhere until the work that God has brought him here and kept him here with them trying to take him out. Until the work is done, he's here, and they might as well just get somewhere and be quiet or take the money you stole and leave.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Was it the energy secretary? They found that on the way out the door, by the way, $93 billion.
Yeah.
Jennifer
December. Granholm.
$93 billion?
With a B in 76 days. $93 billion. Just
Look,
and
y'all
it
left, and nobody said anything. Nobody's
wait a
arrested.
minute.
What? Come
If I
on.
go to Walmart and take a bottle of isopropyl alcohol for
Right.
99 cents, they stole that's stealing. That is stealing. That is not fraud, waste, and abuse. That is stealing. They
It's beyond that.
stole $96 billion. What?
Yeah. And how do you get away? It's the getting away with it part that's killing me. So I'm really hoping that the DOJ will investigate that and that there is opportunity to claw back some of that money.
That money.
Right.
Yeah, Lisa is trying to. He's
Because-
clawing back some of that money.
Yeah.
Because that
This
is
is sad. This is
That is
sad. But I'm glad that they're finding it. Grateful
They're
for
finding
those. Grateful for
That
the people that are on the team, right? Because a lot of people, they go, oh, they're just sycophants for Trump and they're just over loyalists. No, they actually do respect their country. And it's just a team of people who have the mindset that, okay, we don't want to kill ourselves and we don't want to destroy the country. We actually want to make things better. That does
The
not make them
nihilism
sycophants.
exhausting, I must say. I'm how are you angry with Elon? He's the dude finding the fraud. Like, he's the one finding all the money they stole. That's all it is. I see these dumb, look, Dr. Noni is always these people. I'm telling you, I'm not, people think I'm just targeting, but I'm telling you, living in Colorado, it is baby boomer white liberals. It is always them. And they go to the Tesla dealerships and they protest and they hold up their signs, hands up, hands up. And I'm like, hands off what? Dummy, the money's already been stolen. Why are you out here? Oh, I know why. Because you have 3 or 4 retirement checks coming in every month, and you have your home that's been paid for 20 years. And you don't care about these young people who can't afford a home because of all the money that the baby boomer generation made. And now they have all these assets and they're just liquid to the eyeballs. So, they can be misled and they can afford ideology. These kids cannot afford ideology. They're coming up in the world. They need to be able to pay their bills.
Yeah.
Why are you selfish like that?
Yeah, true. And some of them are actually paid activists, which people don't realize. That a lot of these people are paid by the hour. By the way, they will show up at 10 and leave at noon, like on time. Okay. They clock in and clock out. I mean, they even had it for like the Diddy trial. They had people wearing t-shirts and paying them $20 an hour to stand out there to support him.
What?
Like, what are we doing? I mean, it's almost like we're living in the Truman Show. I kid you not. I kid you not. I wake up some days, I'm like, is this real? Okay, is this mic on? I guess it is, because yeah, y'all are just the worst. They're the worst.
Do you have to? I mean, you have to. I could not do that for money because I don't believe any of that. And they want and need people living in their delusion. And, all of the paid.
They have to have it. They have to have it to keep
they're not popular.
To keep it going. Yeah.
They're trying to, get together the scrape out of the bottom off the gum off the bottom of their shoes to find candidates. The Democrats is who I'm referring to just to be a viable candidate for the midterms, because they know that they've imploded. They already lost.
Yeah.
But now they're AOC, Jasmine Crockett. It's like, oh yeah, please, yes. Oh,
that's not going to work. But Jasmine Crockett, she actually said that they found a white boy, by the way. And that's exactly what she said. The donors have found somebody that they're going to support. So I was like, okay, it's okay. Hold on. So you're telling me that y'all have to get behind this person and you're just going to force your constituents to get behind this person. Nobody has a choice. Even if somebody else came up that was better, you've chosen who you're going to.
Oh,
okay. What? But you talk about the Republican Party. Look, this is why I started my own party, because I was like, y'all are a lot. That's a lot.
Noted. Because they call it the uniparty now, because it's two sides of the same doggone coin. They are. Where does one end and the other begin? They both been stealing money. I mean, they both been stock trading based on their knowledge from the committees they're in. Even on the Republican side, they've both been doing it. So it's, who do we trust? Because nothing's getting done. The Doge cuts have not been codified into the big beautiful bill, and we need that. Right. What are y'all doing? Y'all still on vacation for another week? They don't come back till next Tuesday. They're on vacation more than they're in.
They work. What is it, like 151 days a year or something like that?
And get paid full time.
It's roughly under two. Yeah, it's under 200 days a year that they work, but they are paid for a full year. In my opinion, nobody should get a salary until our budget is balanced. That's my opinion. You don't get paid any monies, and you don't get any donor money. And if we find out, you'll go to jail. Like, this is what I want. And you balance the budget. Yeah. And if you want to be in Congress, you need to hold a job. You can't just rely on the federal government. Those are the stipulations that I want to see, and term limits, of course, because
I think we need to
stop dying in the house. Stop dying on the floor.
Girl,
stop.
Dianne Feinstein.
I mean, McConnell, he's in a wheelchair. He can't speak. Dianne Feinstein. And these are just the recent ones, because there were other people before them that were there till they were in their 90s, literally dying on the floor of the House and the Senate. Literally.
That racist Strom Thurmond, was that his name? Yes, Strom Thurmond.
Yeah.
Robert Byrd.
It's like, this isn't a lifestyle. It's okay. I'm going to make them juxtaposed to welfare. This is something that you do to support your country, limited, and then you go on to do better things. But it's not a lifestyle, and you've made it a lifestyle living off of the federal government. You're just doing it a different way. But you want to look down on the people that take welfare. Look, I'm just going to call a spade a spade. Saying.
And you would be correct with that hand. They are, I have said in one of my videos that got nuked when the channels got nuked on TikTok, they are the credential class white liberals. They are the new welfare queens. They used to say that about Black women in the 80s and the 90s. Yep. Now it's them. They don't want to let go of their USAID money. They did not have a plan B. That was their plan. And they were able to become heads of agency this and director of agency that and NGO director of this and NGO EVP of that. And that's how that was their plan. How dare you take this money from me? I went to Harvard.
Yeah, we saw all those wonderful protests in front of USAID. And it's like, really? You're taking people's money, and you're telling the people's money that you're taking that you should be taking it. Like, it was the worst circular conversation that I ever saw. It was like, you're really doing this to us? Like, those of us that are awake, right? We're like, no, it's not that.
Right.
But then the people that weren't awake were like, yeah, we can't shut it down. So you're okay with being abused. Got it.
Well, but you don't do nothing. Like, I worked with y'all. You did. Our agency was put together by congressional mandate, because of the extreme backlog of Medicare cases. Right. And they created all these departments and all these offices across the country. Well, okay, the mandamus was fulfilled. They got all of these cases down, and it took 3-4 years, but we worked and got 800,000 Medicare cases for seniors processed. They went through adjudication. They went through hearing. I worked with judges and attorneys, and we got these cases adjudicated. Okay. What do we need these departments for now? The work has been done. The court case has said, okay, because that's what happened is HHS got sued because of all these this extreme backlog.
Right.
So backlog's gone. Why do we still have all these offices? Why do we still have all these people who are now comfortable in these federal positions and they don't want to leave?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
what Doge is doing.
Yep. Yep. And I don't even know if Kennedy's even gotten that far, as far as, with staffing, right? Like who needs to be here, who doesn't. I'm sure he'll get to it because, we have to remember, like, he really didn't start working until March. Right. It's just now the end of May. I know everything's been moving at such a neck break speed that people were like, yeah, why isn't he done? Because he just got, literally, he hasn't been there for 90 days. Calm down.
And look at that thing that just left. Who was the HHS secretary? Who was actually a dude who was a mental patient dressing up.
Needs to be in prison, by the way. Allegedly.
Okay.
I'll say allegedly needs to be put in prison for what was allowed.
Yeah, that all of the initiatives I used to get the emails from that individual and talking about the initiatives for transitioning children and gender affirming care under the HHS umbrella, because then that means it's on the federal level and it's trickling down to the cities and the states and the municipalities. I am so glad to see that gone. I am just.
And the title of first woman should be removed. It should be revoked. If the Trump administration is listening, there has never been a woman in that position.
No.
So revoke it immediately.
That is
okay. Let's fix
it. That is insane.
Just saying. It was disgusting. I'm not looking forward to June. And if June happens, and I'm going to cover this in my show tomorrow, I told my listeners, we need to really look at the state and local laws that have lunacy laws against having any type of provocative material in front of minors. And if things like that happen, people just need to call the police, and the police need to do their job. We're not going to have the degeneracy, people walking around in socks, nothing but socks is not pride. Okay. You're just being a degenerate. Right. And we're going to stop that. Shut that down in this country. That's more.
You've had your fun. Okay. The devil has had his way.
Yeah. New sheriff in town.
Now grown folks are taking over, and we don't have to go to the Vatican to perform these exorcisms. Get this mess up out of here. They're destroying these children. This is the next generation. I know they've done away with a lot of youth programs. I've watched it in the county I lived in, Jefferson County, Colorado, closest to the West, the gateway to the West, as they call it. They've done away with youth programs because they spent so much money taking care of illegals. Remember, this was where all that Aurora and Trinidad happened. Okay. Yeah, I was there for all that too. There are going to be some. Colorado's going to be on the radar of the federal government for a while. You had this Secretary of State here, Jenna Griswold, who tried to have President Trump taken off the ballot.
Yes,
she claimed she had nothing to do with it, but she absolutely did. She's the Secretary of State. That's the voting system, you moron. Yeah, she orchestrated it. Well, she's kind of dumb, so I don't think she orchestrated it, but she definitely pushed that through and then pretended, oh, my hands are clean, I have nothing to do with it. So there's that, and there's Tina Peters. You've heard of that, of Tina Peters. She is the Gold Star, military Gold Star mother. Her son, Remington Peters, was killed on active duty serving his country, and she is in prison for 9 years because of the same aforementioned Secretary of State, Jenna Griswold, who threw that woman in prison when she was guilty of the same thing 100 times worse. Literally, while she was putting that woman through court and that woman was going through hell and being excoriated by the judge and called an election denier. All she did was image the which is her job as the Mesa County clerk for elections.
Right.
She took an imaging of the systems because there were just things that were not right. Well, these people were getting ready to erase everything forever, just erase it. So she caught it before they had a chance to erase it.
Yeah.
They threw her in prison. She's still in prison right now
in
Colorado.
And for people out there that don't know, you're actually supposed to keep voting records anywhere from 2 to 5 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And the reason is if there's any recounts or recalls, or if you need to just verify that people are who they said they were and they were eligible to vote in our process, you can confirm that. That's why you have to keep those documents. And so it was always curious to me because people were like, oh yeah, just get rid of them. I'm like, no. Who are you people? You don't understand document retention policies? Like, how do you have this job? Like, those are my basic questions. How did you get this job? Because I have like a lot more knowledge of you, and that's just basic knowledge, but you have this job. It has always been crazy to me to see, like, I'm like, okay, you just have people that are doers. They're not leaders. They just do what they're told. They don't ask any questions. They collect their paycheck and they go home. And as long as nobody's messing with them, they're okay with that. But for people that actually care, they ask questions. So like, why are we doing this? Is this the right thing to do? Are you sure about that? What about an audit? You know what I mean? Those are the people that care. And those are the people that get thrown in jail, unfortunately.
Yes. Unfortunately, they're the heroes, but it's on the radar of the president. It's on the radar. He has mentioned her by name.
Good.
It is on the radar of Rogan Hadley, I believe his name is. He's DC Drano on X. And he is, there are people who are looking at this and trying to, especially since, did you see the Chrisleys? The president gave them a full pardon. I think.
Oh, I hadn't seen that yet. Okay, good.
Yeah, the Chrisleys. Yeah, they were getting, their daughter was on Insta, and she was going to get her parents. So I'm really glad about that because they didn't do anything wrong. Give me a break.
Yeah, because I always wondered. I was like, what did they do wrong? I don't know, because taxes, being a paralegal, blah, blah. I see like so much criminal behavior, and I'm like, okay, they got away with that, but you're getting them for this. You know what I mean? It's just weird. It's like, okay, maybe there was something undercutting that you didn't get from them that you wanted. Maybe you were trying to blackmail them or bribe them, and you didn't get what you wanted. So you're like, okay, we're just going to throw you in jail. You know, and using the judicial system as a weapon.
Throw them in jail. Just throw them in jail. So with them being released, thank God, their family is back together. They can go, start their new lives. So I'm thinking, Tina Peters, they were saying, well, it can't apply because it's a state's, it's a state issue. He has Article 2 powers that supersede Article 10. So, the 10th Amendment. So let's just calm down. I truly believe President Trump is not going to allow Tina Peters to sit in prison for literally what the Secretary of State, to cover her, to cover her. She literally, I'm not kidding, while the court was going on, while they were in court, there were over 600 BIOS passwords that were sitting open on the internet for over 4 months from her office, while they were in trial, putting that Gold Star mother in prison. The Libertarian Party of Colorado sued this wench. And of course, with, the incestuous relationships with the judges and the prosecutors and the courts, blah, blah, blah. Of course, she was, she was excused. And, she did a so-called investigation on herself, and she found that she didn't do anything wrong. Hallelujah.
Surprise.
Wow.
Why are we surprised?
This state is.
Wow. That is so sad that that's happening in Colorado. But it's happening, in Illinois. It's happening in California. It's happening, Georgia is not off, the list of, anything nefarious happening here. We've got somebody getting ready to run for governor. The last name is Bottoms. I'm wanting to run a campaign against her because I don't want to see her be the governor of our state. I think she will totally destroy our state here. Kim, yeah, I'm not a super fan, but guess what? Guess who he's supporting? Ms. Bottoms. That's who he's supporting. That's who he's throwing his support behind. Yeah. It says a lot, doesn't it? I know. Oh, I can't hear you. Oops. She'll be right back with us, guys. I know I've just been enjoying our conversation so much. I'm like, I'm gonna let it ride. But she'll be back with us in a minute. But yes, these are the interesting things that are happening around the world. And I'm just so grateful that, Karen's been able to join us. Let me add her back to the stage. There you go.
There we go. Sorry.
Sorry about that.
I just refreshed.
Okay, no problem.
In Georgia. Is anybody going to run again? Ms. Bottoms?
I know a couple of people running for lieutenant governor. I don't know if anybody running for governor yet. I know the current lieutenant governor, he is going to run for governor, but I don't know who the Republican Party is actually going to tap to be governor. Does that make sense? Because they still have to go through their what is it called? The oh goodness, the name is escaping me. The preliminaries. So they haven't done the preliminary run yet. And I know that Lance Bottoms, she's, actually confirmed that she is going to run, but Kemp is getting behind her.
Wait a minute, you mean
his lieutenant governor.
Lance Bottoms?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yeah.
She's running for governor?
She's running for governor. Yeah. I'm not a fan. No. No. All the no's.
The city of Atlanta. What?
I'm aware fully. People don't have a long-term memory that's very short-term, and if people are just so excited. But like I said, Kemp is getting behind her. Apparently, I don't know. It's alleged.
How do these people keep failing up?
I don't know. I don't like it.
I didn't know it was her. Oh, come on. Come on.
Yeah. It's that.
Oh, she's black.
Yeah, it's that whole thing. And I'm not going for it. Just because you have the same hue as me and you are a female doesn't make me want to vote for you. Because I've already seen your track record and I don't like it. I already know that you're okay with people being here illegally because you said it in an interview.
Yeah, she did. You're right.
You will turn Georgia into California. I'm trying to warn people you don't want that because you can't change it back. Once it goes down that rabbit hole of liberalism, it doesn't get to go back. You can get certain parts of it back in certain parts of your state, but your state as a whole, you'll destroy it. I've seen it. You see California, it's on fire. Yeah, people are leaving in droves. They can't stay there. Just saying. Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me. Okay, I guess that's just the way that. God, oh please.
Look, I got you with that one.
I need a goodie powder after that. That's just. Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. So yeah, that's I really pray there's a MAGA candidate. And honestly, MAGA is people, it's now synonymous with sanity because it's minding our business, leaving other people's alone, conservative values, and people forget how conservative Black folks were until the great taking.
Yeah.
and the involvement of the, the unholy ones.
Yeah, we are a people who we care about others. We do hold very conservative values,
Yeah.
A lot of us are actually good with money. It's not all of us
Yep.
that are bad with money and want to spend our money on rims and, green cars and different things like that. Some of us actually are business owners. I, come from a family of business owners in various, different industries. So
that's amazing.
We want to see our country do better. We really, really do.
We do. We don't want our, and it's not fair. What has happened the last 4 years has not been fair to American citizens. And now, after spending so much time and money to coddle and court these foreigners, and now that you can't do it because you're not getting the federal money, now here they come again with, I saw in Congress, Ayanna Pressley and a couple of other Black Congress women. Now they want to talk about reparations. It's like, wait a minute, you've spent the last 4 years.
Yeah, HR 40. Let's bring it back. No, let's not. Let's burn it. Yeah. First of all, let's burn it because you tried 3 times. It didn't work.
It didn't work. It's not going to. Please just
no.
Stop.
And then I want to say one lady was like, yeah, we're going to charge people more taxes to pay reparations. Like, not a bright idea. First of all, I don't want my taxes to go up to pay reparations for anything. No. Like I said, I'm looking at Donald Trump's 10-point plan. It makes sense, but it actually creates sustainability for the Black community. And that's, what we need.
Yes.
We need the sustainability so that we can carry on generationally and build wealth within the community, because that wealth that's built can never go away. And that's what we need. We don't want to be so attached to the federal government the way the government wanted us dependent upon them, right? Saying, okay, we'll give you this if you vote for us. That's no longer the deal. Because we know that everybody right now, unfortunately, in the House and Senate, you guys don't even work for us. You work for your self-interest and corporations that have put you in that seat, because just everybody out there, a corporation can create bills and they can pay bills. They just can't vote. That is why they buy politicians. It's very simple, and it's very unfortunate.
It is, because we don't get what we want, but they campaign on what they're going to do for constituents. And I'm very disappointed that it took this long to get the president's big, beautiful bill passed. It really bothers me that all of a sudden, these members of Congress and the Senate have found religion. And now they want to start to, we need to just cut more. We need to cut more. We need to save more money. You didn't say that when you were passing the Inflation Reduction Act, when y'all were dancing a jig on the congressional floor after passing those omnibus bills, voluminous, with $300 billion for Ukraine. That's another debacle. I don't care about Ukraine. I care about my country. So now all of a sudden, I don't want to spend all that money. We're going to just doom the next generation. You didn't care about that under Biden. You did not care. Now, all of a sudden, you care about saving money. Well, you've already doomed the next generation with the previous bills that were passed under Joe Biden for the Green New Nightmare and woke and DEI, that only, by the way, the studies prove that DEI policy, only 80% of the DEI appointments that are at executive level are white women.
Didn't benefit us at all. It's like I see our people as like a diving board. Everybody gets to jump a lot higher than we do. And we're just still there as the diving board. And people just get to launch off of. I'm like, okay, tired, exhausted. I'm grateful for the things that my family's been able to do and other families have been able to do across the country. But I think it's just time for us to have that come to Jesus moment and realize we're not going to just be used like this anymore, right? So stop
Correct.
putting things in place to use us, right?
Correct.
I'm glad they got rid of DEI because it harmed people. Too. And people didn't really see the harm in it unless you were harmed by it. Does that make sense?
Correct.
And I've seen it in real time because it happened to me and it happened to one of my coworkers. So I know what it looks like. So nobody gets to tell me that doesn't happen. No, yeah, it doesn't. I did not benefit from it. By the way, having a master's degree and having people tell me, well, we can only, give you this much. Even with all the papers that you have and all the experience that you have, we can't pay you any more than this. Yeah, that's what DEI did to me. Thanks. Appreciate you. When I get to be told, hey, we need you to train this attorney to do your job. Yeah, that's what happened to me. So nobody gets to talk to me about DEI being great ever.
You cannot be gaslit.
I'm sorry.
You cannot be gaslit. I love that too. That's why you're here, and that's why so many people love to hear what you have to say, because you cannot be gaslit, and you are. I am just so honored to be on your show and to have you and the Redemption Party, honey. This is we have to go in a different direction if these people are not going to honor our wishes. They're not. They have shown us they're not.
Yeah. We have to stand up as we the people.
This is ours. That's why this country was created. It's that's why it says a more perfect union, because it's not perfect, but we are definitely striving to do that. You had mentioned also these people get in these lifetime appointments, and how dare you insinuate that they be replaced with another candidate. I honestly do not believe that we can have candidates like Sandy Cortez, for instance, aka AOC, who went straight from college to Congress. She's never had a job.
No,
never had.
She was a bartender. That was the closest job she had. She was a bartender.
She was a
to Congress.
She was a part-time. She filled in. I'm going to tell you how I know this. She filled in probably for one of her friends who went home on, a holiday vacation or whatever. And she probably filled in for her. She was at an event of a fundraiser where she was the bartender at this fundraiser. And this was back in 2019, right after she was elected to, they primaried Joe Crowley, a 10-term Democrat in the 14th district of New York, and put this moron in there. She was at this event and she did not know her way around the bar. She did. What did you mix to get that? What did you? Oh, you really? Oh, okay. Here, let me try this. She had no idea what she was doing. So I don't even think she was a bartender full time. I think
she was a good actress.
She's an actress.
Yeah, they selected her. They selected her. They had a cattle call, apparently.
Yes.
And she got it.
She won.
She had the right look that they were wanting. And it's unfortunate because, I've seen her grow in her acting ability and skills to be a lot more settled. But a lot of what they do is political theater. And I can see it. I have an acting background as well. And I can see. And sometimes when they do stuff, I'm like, wow, this is staged. Okay.
Oh! There again, you cannot be gaslit. And that is amazing.
Especially that when Jasmine Crockett did the bleach blonde built body or whatever. I was like, that's such a line. That was a whole line. All of y'all practice that. Because you can tell if you go back and watch it, they're throwing lines back and forth to each other. I'm not putting MTG under any type of bad spotlight, but I'm just saying, because after that whole moment and situation, those are the only three women you really wanted to talk about in Congress, and they stood out. And then after that, you've seen AOC run around with Bernie Sanders trying to build herself up and build a brand while they're using the distraction, Jasmine Crockett, and making her like sister girl over here. Who wears slides on television was bad. It's horrible. And doing these TikTok videos, it's horrible, right? And then there are times with MTG, I just wish she had better staff behind her executing her research, right? When she's bringing forth different things. And so I just kind of see it like, okay, I can still see the political theater that you guys are doing. You're really, truly, you need to help us. And I'm not saying MTG is not trying to help us. I really see her trying to help us. But I do think there are people within her camp trying to make her look bad. If that makes sense.
Wow. That's crazy. She's down. Oh, that's right. She's in your neck of the woods. That's right.
She's in Georgia. Yeah, she's up north. She's in Paulding County. I want to say she's near Rome, Georgia. She's from Rome. So she's a little bit north. Yeah. About 2.5 hours from where I'm at. But I see a lot of these politicians, they are doing the political two-step. And that's, again, why I started the Redemption Party, because we need to have servants of the people, not politicians. We need to have people that are concerned.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We do have problems. We have to get them addressed. You are so right. I cannot wait to connect with you more about that, because we don't have anything of that sort out west. There's
right.
There are people are in their own world, and there are honestly a lot of, like you said, California Democrats who left California quietly and came here and started the same policies. But most of those are white, liberal, baby boomer age. The younger people who come here are a little more centrist, because they see what LA has become.
Yeah.
And Karen Bass ain't black. Just saying. But
yeah. She hides though. She hides well. But I won't keep you any longer. But definitely I want to have you back on, just for any political segments. If you have any updates, and those I'll be doing throughout the week. But thank you for joining us for Women in Wellness Wednesday. And I just wanted you to have last words of where people can find you, right, on social media, and just give us your tip for political wellness.
Political wellness is it entails, even if it's on a small scale, getting involved in your local community. And I know that people, as I said, people think that I'm not into politics, but politics is into you. And people really need to see what is going on in their community, because it will eventually affect you, and see where you fit in. You think that you don't have a voice, you do. And when we come out together against these egregious policies, they may not all get passed like here in Colorado, but I tell you, it puts us on the map, and it gives it national attention. Even if you do something like make phone calls 2 hours a week, send emails, send emails to your congressional representatives, get on votesmart.org and see how your congressional representatives are voting. Are they voting in your best interests? You need to get involved. Your families, the next generation. If you're not involved, then you get this mess like we got in Colorado with 1312, a House bill that the House and the Senate passed and the governor signed, that says you cannot misgender someone, or you can go to jail for misgendering someone or dead naming someone. I don't even know what that is. But it passed because not enough people are aware of this absolute evil that has been hoisted upon us. So get involved. And you don't have to be in it like a lot of us are because this is just kind of my jam, but just kind of see what's going on and get involved. You don't have to have both feet in, but just do something and learn about how this is going to affect you, because it will. And you can follow me on X. I'm at Real Karen Jean, and that was initially to throw shade at Corinne Jean Pierre, because she's a fabrication. She's a fake Karen Jean. I'm the real deal Holyfield. So at Real Karen Jean on X. Follow me there. I appreciate you. And Dr. Noni, girl, this has been amazing. I really appreciate you, and I look forward. Please have me on again. I would love to.
Absolutely, because trust me, you are raw and uncut, and I love it. Okay, I enjoy it. Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. So thank you so much. I know I ran a little long today because, this is the last Wednesday of the month, and it probably will go this way for next month in June, because I just want to make sure that, we do hear from the women out there in the community. And I so appreciate, Karen Kennedy coming on, and also Dr. Nikki Johnson and Gabrielle Clark for being my guests on this last Wednesday of the month for Women in Wellness Wednesday. And with that, I'll let you guys go. Thank you again so much for joining us here on Unfiltered Vision News, bringing you the news unfiltered Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. And we will see you on the next one. Have a great one.